What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Thrifty back with Thrifty PS Gamer Reviews. Thank you all for being here. We have had an off week. We took kind of the week off. My family did for Thanksgiving and the holiday and all of that. I beat a game last week. It wasn't a long game. I played 15 hours into Final Fantasy 1 and beat it. And I did it using a guide because Lord Jesus, you need one. And yeah, really had a good time with that. A lot of the tropes that I saw in later JRPGs are alive and fresh here. Like when you meet the Chancellor at the beginning, and like he's kind of leery of you being the four heroes of light and stuff. So much he knew. But like when you're all in that moment, like because of later JRPGs, I was like, oh man, the Chancellor did it. Of course it's the Chancellor. It's always the Chancellor. It's never the King. It's always the Chancellor. And then it turned out to be something different, and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. But yeah, so beat Final Fantasy, and was gonna do a video, was gonna do a lot of stuff, and just decided I'm just gonna wait. We had sickness up and down all through our house, through the holidays, through the beginning of the week, and so there was just not a good time for me to isolate myself from the rest of the clan up here and decide to go ahead and do a video, so I didn't. But we are back with the live stream, and looks like we have a very special, very unexpected guest in David Faulkner, better known as Falky. He is coming on tonight, apparently. Falky, what's going on, dude?
Hey, how you doing? Sorry, I just I had a spot open and I thought, oh, we were chatting earlier and you said you were flying solo and I thought, oh, I'll come and give you some company.
Well, hey man, I appreciate it. There's actually quite a few people going live tonight. Apparently, some news broke today, and has been going around everywhere about Ubisoft closing Xdefiant. We had, of
Mm.
course, PlayStation's 30th birthday yesterday, even though most people in the world wouldn't know it because there was no real celebration. We'll get into that later. I'm so pissed off about that. I am. I cannot tell you how much of a like letdown it was, and how much I am so mad that more channels are not saying something about it because it's ridiculous. But anyways, AAA gaming, we've heard it a lot, but AAA gaming might actually be dying, but it's not what you think. And so we're going to kind of discuss that. This is based off of uh, content I watched earlier. It was actually a reaction video of a video. So like it's that combined with the Sean Layden interview that was done. And so Falky, I didn't even know you were going to be here, so you don't have any of the notes. I can actually send those to you,
That's fine.
but I think you're
Nah, don't worry about it.
I think you're pretty averse on most of these topics. Shu is leaving PlayStation after 31 years. And guys,
Mm.
this has me more nervous than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. I am not even kidding. Um, because and people are making the really bad move here and washing it away and saying it's not that big of a deal. It's 31 years, blah blah blah. The first initial cope was, oh, he's retiring. Shu comes out and goes, yeah, I'm not retiring. Oh, crap. Okay, so what happened? Because one thing that's different about my generation, I'm 38 years old, than the generation before me, which would be Shuhei's generation and my father's generation, uh, they don't leave jobs. It is very rare for somebody from that generation to be in a position for that long and then not retire with the company. At least over here in America, that's the boomer mentality is you find your job, you stay with the company, you're loyal to the company, and you retire with said company. Happens to several people in that generation. So I don't think that him leaving is just like this happy-go-lucky fairy tale. And let's be honest, if it wasn't for Shu, this year would not have been as good as it was for PlayStation or gaming in general. So we're going to kind of cover that. And then Indiana Jones, apparently you need a space shuttle to be able to play this freaking thing with ray tracing. Um, or a PS5 Pro, possibly, allegedly. So we're going to talk about that. The minimum requirements for ray tracing is a 4080, if I've read that right. Um, Good luck. Have fun. Enjoy your ray trace jank with a supercomputer. But everybody else will be playing it in standard. And then we got some PlayStation Portal news from the CEO. As I was realizing that I was flying solo, I expanded my topics from 4 to 6, and I found this article from PlayStation Lifestyle. And I'll be honest, a couple of the articles today, y'all know I don't read all of them. I don't read most of them before we go over them. But I did pick a couple based off of the title, and this was kind of one of them. And so I did make sure it was a new interview and a new article. So went ahead and did all that, and super excited about seeing what might be next and seeing what they're wanting to do with it. But yeah, guys, with all of that, hit the like. Oh, hey, for anybody who missed the post, um, I am removing and I have removed the Cash App function for giving. Um, that felt weird. And so, like, each week I'd be done and I'd be like, ew, I feel sticky. I just feel gross. And, like, just, I couldn't do it. And it's not because I think I was, nobody gave through it, nobody did anything like that. And that was always, it was a test run, anyways. But, like, ew. I don't like that. That's not what this channel is about. It's not about nickel and diming. It's not about asking for this or that. It's about the community. And with that in mind, y'all have been gracious to me for the past 7 months since this channel got monetized. And it's about time I start doing something back for my members. So there is a poll up on the channel, and you can take that poll. And basically, I'm either going to be playing Bloodborne, or I'll be picking some community game, probably like Rivals is coming out, and I'm actually kind of interested in that. So we may be able to get some stuff going with that, doing a game night, or some other multiplayer title. But just something where the community can spend time together. Uh, I mean, give y'all something. Y'all should love it. I'm gonna love it. Unless it's Bloodborne, please, please don't hate me that much. Um, I'm begging y'all. Bloodborne is winning right now, and the Ultimate Collection for Bloodborne is on sale for like $12 digitally because of the PlayStation 30th. And I'm like, I'll buy it. I will. But just know I don't want to. So I'm going to leave that up just for a little bit, and y'all can go vote on that. But yes, speaking of my sleeve monkeys, holy crap, this is what happens when I'm gone for a week. Speaking of my sleeve monkeys, here they are, right here. No, they're not. Whoops, hang on. They're here somewhere. Holy crap. And there they are. These are the sleeve monkeys. These are the people that have either been gifted a member or have purchased their own. Pretty much almost everybody on the first list on here has purchased their own. They've been with the channel for several months now, and I truly appreciate everything, guys. Y'all were so instrumental in the PS5 Pro purchase, and yeah, I'm absolutely baffled that that happened when it did. So yes, thank you to all of the sleeve monkeys. Every single one of y'all are fantastic and amazing. And oh my goodness, that is a 10-minute intro. That is way too long. Warawana, if he was here right now, he'd be telling me to wrap it up and hurry up and get on with it. So that is what we are going to do. Falky, what the heck have you been playing?
Sorry, I have been busy playing Dave the Diver and very much enjoying that.
Okay. Not what I was expecting, but okay.
It's addictive. It's very addictive. Been having a good run with the smaller indie games, and it's certainly well worth a look if you haven't played it. Get onto it. Yeah, it's mad fun.
That's funny you talk about indie games that are really good and have no business probably being that good. I on the Black Friday sale, I picked up Vampire Survivor digitally. It was like $3, $4 or whatever. And I picked it up and I started playing it. First I got the demo because it was like a 2-hour demo. I was like, cool, I'll see if I like it. And so I played it and I was like, oh shit, this is really fun. And then all of a sudden I get the message, you have 1 hour left. oh shit. I keep playing. You have 30 minutes left. And so I buy it that same night because all I've done for 2 solid hours is sit and watch my little wizard run up and down the freaking map. And I swear to God, that game has no business being as good as it is and as fun as it is. And then I bought the Contra DLC, and I plan on buying the other ones too because they're really fun.
Well, the
And
important thing is that, and everyone's seen me bang on about indie games so much, but it's these little quirky things that make them fun. And like you were saying earlier, PlayStation celebrated 30 years, and some of us have been gaming since before PlayStation existed.
facts.
So, and games back then were simple, very basic at times, 2D, and very basic inputs. But when you applied your imagination, you got a lot out of it. So, and like you're saying in your intro there before, you're playing Final Fantasy One, I think it was, you said,
Yeah.
and yeah, you need a guide to go through it. How much fun is that game? For those of us who know how to use our imagination. You have to read the words because there's no voice acting in it, and the sprites are just little things moving across the screen. And it's very basic, but it's not all about the. So with Indiana Jones, you need a bloody supercomputer to be able to enjoy the game with all its bells and whistles and the rest of it. That's great. What's the game like? Do I get
Mm.
any enjoyment out of the story? How can I be immersed in this thing? And I'm just finding like indie games more and more now have just got that little bit of magic in them because they're not fully polished and they're not 1,000,000% brilliant. They're like Animal Well's got this really odd art style to it, but it's more of a puzzler than a platform. But it's got an addictive loop. Dave the Diver's got a hugely addictive loop to it because it's someone like me, you got to go and collect everything. It's a go and collect game. That's basically what it is with a storyline in the background. So, and you were just explaining then the little quirks about the game you've been playing. It's just fun, isn't it?
It really is. And what's interesting is I was watching some stuff on PoE2 today, and I'll be completely honest with you, okay? PoE2 is it has a chance of ruining my life and my YouTube channel because I, I might go directly like head first deep into it when it comes out. I don't pay for early access of free to play games. That's not my thing. They're free to play.
It's so PoE 2's Path of Exile 2, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Oh my Lord, did you see the PC Elite people going nuts because that was coming to console day one?
Oh, I can't wait. It's gonna be so
Holy
fun.
crap, did they go off the chops about it? There's so many PC streamers going, how dare they put this thing on console? It's like, yeah, there's a bit of reverse anger coming here. Instead of console games getting narky about things going to PC, PC's getting narky about them coming to console.
So
Funny as hell.
I did a I did a little short talking about like the best place to play and all this other stuff, and it was a little short, and somebody commented on there uh, that the best place or the luckiest gamers are those who have Steam. The no, I'm sorry, the gamers who can play everything have Steam and Xbox Game Pass. And I was like, Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I said one other game. All would like to enter the chat, please, because you can't touch those. You can't. And so now they're having to deal with that on the other end, and I just think it's hilarious. That is funny. I didn't realize that because I kind of stay away from the PCMR guys. They're a little worse than Xbox to me. And so
It's they are uh I don't know how you can politely describe it, but elitists is one word for it, and I mean that in all the negative connotations. But like those that just
with
swear
all
black and
no
blue that
respect.
yeah, and they can go and they can go do one. And this is these commentary now and henceforth until I say otherwise on this particular subject is reserved for those who say exclusively that PC gaming is all that they do and that's all that they will ever do, and everything else is inferior. If that's the attitude you approach gaming with, and you're restricting yourself to keyboard and mouse inputs, you are missing out on so much immersion. And if you're then saying, "Oh, I can just plug in a dual sense to my PC and I get all the benefits," no, you don't.
Uh-uh.
You don't get any of those benefits. Half the games on there don't even utilize those
You
controllers to
get
an it
parallel
and
sticks. You're welcome.
yeah, it. Um, but the to isolate yourself from experiences and experience things like plenty of games I will only play on a computer because it just makes sense. Strategy games, point and click games. It's just easier with a mouse and a keyboard to, to play those games. Um, I found playing Disco Elysium on console difficult at times because of the navigation on it's an isometric game, but easy to play on a computer. Same with Farming Simulator on a PlayStation with a controller. It's frustrating as hell, but on a computer, easy. Point,
Mm,
click, drag, forward, back, whatever. Um, it's easier to plug steering wheels and joysticks and that into a computer as well. So if you that way inclined, but you miss out on so many awesome games if you say I'll never play it on PlayStation. It's great. You miss out on them for all I care. That's your choice. And if that you're comfortable with that choice, it's great because the amount of games that are on PC is phenomenally stupid. You'll never
yes.
get to play all of them.
Yes.
But
Correct.
um, then it's like saying, oh, well, one's better than the other. It's like be platform agnostic, and I genuinely mean that. Play the games that are worth playing that you want to play where you can, not get everything and do it everywhere. Just the ones you enjoy, play them where you can. But there's no need to shit on someone else because they want to do it in a different manner. That's why we have choice.
That is. And it has been my choice to get a PS5 Pro and play Final Fantasy 1 on it.
Like me,
So-
the first game I played on the PS5 was an old 2D PS4 game. Uh,
Sorry,
I,
that humor and that irony was not lost on me all last week. That I was like, wait, I have this massive beast of a console, and I'm playing a game from 1987. All right, cool.
yep.
Which,
So it
funny
was.
enough, starting Final Fantasy 2, it was very, it was shocking the color palette upgrade from 1
Mm,
and 2. And that's even with like the remasters doing their thing and all of that. Like the color palette shift from 1 to 2 was absolutely insane. It is so much brighter and bolder.
oh yeah, and because it was a the learnings from the first game you apply in the second game and it just progresses on from there. And then you see the jump between 6 and 7 with the platform switch, and then going 7, 8, 9, totally different art styles, and then you get to 10 again, another platform switch, or shouldn't say platform switch, but another generational switch. And then you look at all this, the offshoots or the things like Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles or Final Fantasy worlds and all these other little offshoots that have popped out of it.
Yeah.
Um, it's just nuts. The they've almost all got a different art style and program to them. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely so I think you posted something about this and from what I remember it gained a little bit of traction, a little bit of engagement, but it was indie games and seeing the passion come through from those studios. And one of the things that I was listening to was like when these studios get bigger, they get
Mm.
safer. That's so I
Yeah,
was listening to an interview with I think it was Destin who was interviewing the PoE devs. And they said one of the cool things about them not being a full on like AAA studio is that when they go into the game, they're willing to take risk and they're willing to go, you know what, let's try this.
yeah,
And he even pointed out that their sales and their numbers, like player counts and stuff, when they released a decision that was safe, would dip, and when they released a decision that was more risk, that was more, ooh, should we do this? I don't know. It sounds fun. Let's see. Like their player numbers would go up because people were interested. They were excited. They at least gave it a shot.
yeah.
And
It's something different and interesting, and it piques people's interest and curiosity. So they go, oh, let's go and see what this is about.
yeah, and that's what gets me about like
Imagine that.
That's why, and we can just jump into this now because this is a great seg. Hey, Warawana with the Australian 2. I play games, not platforms. I hate fanboys slash elitist. Absolutely. I am a fanboy from the word go.
Mm.
But I think what you mean, you just ran out of word or typing space. I think what you mean is you hate elitists who can't think critically about anything. Or you hate
Yeah.
fanboys that can't think critically about anything. I don't bring I don't I'm not one of those, and I do not bring those on my show. As a matter of fact, Shu leaving PlayStation and PlayStation's 30th birthday sound like I'm gonna go one way, but oh, trust me, I'm not. I'm not because
This
I'm
is any
upset.
reflection of the post that you made. This is going to turn left in a real hurry.
I'm so mad. I'm so pissed off. They they gave us what amounted to a few tweets and a couple of screenshots. Oh, and a trailer. You could have come out and given a 20-minute presentation. Heck, Shuhei's leaving. Let him come out and do it. He's been with the company longer than the console's been around. Like, have him come out and give a brief history. How awesome of a send off would that be for somebody who helped start this and helped keep it afloat for the past 12 months, damn near single handedly with things like Helldivers 2 and Stellar Blade? How are we just going to sit there and do nothing? Nothing. Oh, hey, here are some posts. Here's this. Oh, and then quietly we're going to slide this my first Gran Turismo game, which would have been freaking awesome to reveal at a show. It's not a new quote unquote game. I wasn't looking for some showcase to show me Wolverine and Ghost of Yotai and whatever game Santa Monica's working on. Like, I was looking for a celebration of 30 freaking years. 30 years, two companies that they have outlasted, and a third that they're actually whipping their ass on right now. Like 30 freaking years. Hell, show Shuhei and the freaking as the PlayStation dang highlights. Show Shuhei handing the game over to somebody else. Show that little commercial with, hey, so how do you share a game on PlayStation? You just hand the freaking disc. Like, show those things. Those were highlights, man. Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh. Stephen Leon with the 10 bomb. Holy cow. Ho, ho, ho. Christmas came early to the playground. We got Aaron Walsh getting hit. Zilla Nation, Innate, El Nini, Brandon S, Hinzu, Juice, Ice Queen Gaming, Cosmic Hero 270, and Brett Siley, also known as Iceman. Oh, whoops. Oh, damn.
You right,
Yep. Americans, man, we can't talk and and breathe at the same time. It requires too much brain power. But like,
mate?
this crap bothers me so much because I wanted to celebrate. I was by my phone the entire day. I loved all the crap that was given out. I didn't even turn my PlayStation on that day because I was so pissed. Like, I didn't get my wallpapers. I didn't get my cool startup screen. I didn't get shit until the next day because I was mad. I just did that crap today, and by the way, I chose the PS3 theme because something about the screen button, the screen sounds when you switch to different things,
Mm.
absolutely just like, oh, it's so satisfying. Also, I realized that my answers to y'all when we have asked questions before, like, hey, what was your favorite PlayStation console? I have been rose-colored glasses all the way because I've said things like, "Oh no, the PS2, it had all this stuff." Bullshit. I went through the game list on the PS3 and I couldn't stop going, "Oh man, that game was amazing. That game was awesome. Oh man, I love that game. Oh, that game was so cool. Oh, I can get that on PlayStation 5? That's sick." Like, cuz they have a list of the games you can buy from all the different eras. And like, I looked at the list and I was like, "Damn, every single one of these things on here hit." It's a banger from the word go. And so, anyways, it's the PS3, guys. It's the PS3. It's Last of Us. It's Sleeping Dogs. It's the PS3 all day long. It just doesn't have the best Final Fantasy games on it. And
No,
so,
it doesn't.
it, anyways, I've talked way too much. I'm. What do you think, man? What do you think of the whole PlayStation 30th
Not su-
anniversary that was
I I
meh?
I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. It's kind of par for the course for PlayStation at the moment with how they handle large events or key dates. Like we've sort of got, they talk about the Last of Us Day. That happens every year. Like, yeah, that's great. That's the fans that are really happy about that. Or what's the other one that Ben made? Days Gone. They have a day of celebration. Like they've got all these, studios that have these key things. They have their Ratchet and Clank Day and all Spider-Man Day and all these, and they just have a bit of a live stream on one of the platforms for a couple of hours, play the game for a bit, chat about it, bit of background, bit of story, bit of something. God of War and God of War Ragnarok have had that massive their celebration is they wheel out the making of that Corey did for the first one and the behind the scenes they did for the second one, and it's par for the course for them to not have major announcements on those key dates. And I was sort of expecting that the 30th anniversary stuff would be, when we didn't hear that there was a show happening, I was like, well, they haven't advertised it 2 or 3 days out. It's not happening. So they got to give people warning to be able to set up streams and all that other stuff because they're not completely heartless in that respect because it's part of their marketing program. But yeah, they've wallpapers and the themes for the PlayStation and a few other key things dropping and the sizzle reel so to speak and whatnot. Um, it just was, and, the blog posts and all the rest of it. I was like, well, yeah, that's pretty much all they've done for major you know anniversaries for the last 3 or 4 years. They're not they're just phoning it in at this stage, right? They're just dialing it in on autopilot for those things, and it's disappointing because if they wanted to, they could really go all out.
Imagine that.
But it's like it's second or third string um, option for them. They're not really into doing that. There's some reason at the moment, and I have a suspicion I know what it is. Bean counters don't like spending lots of money on
Imagine
stuff that
that.
doesn't get a return. Um, so yeah, you can blame the accountants for that for a bit if you like. I won't take offense. But the Shuhei thing, Shuhei leaving, odd timing, and it's
Right?
been sort of in the back. It's been in the background for a while. And because he's got a date announced, they chose to tell us about it a week within a 7 day period of the 30th anniversary date happening. And obviously it was well known before because they did the podcast. They'd record the podcast a week or two before it got released, and it got released, and they made the announcement. That's a decision that would have been made at least a month before he did the podcast. So this has been known for nearly, the better part of 2 months now that this was coming. And the fact that they're letting him run through to the 15th of January, and that's his official final day, and he's retiring from PlayStation, happy days. At least they're giving him a fair, couple of months to wrap a few things up, and he's, he was already booked for official duties into January. So, um, it's not a, it's not something that they had planned well in advance like they did with Jim Ryan and his exit. Um, it's obviously come at a point of reflection for Shuhei, but you can understand, you listen to him talk and his passion for gaming is still there, but his passion for traveling around the world 365 days a year isn't. Uh, so I suppose it's odd timing. They always give us bad news and then give us good news. They gave us bad news. They shut down 2 studios, and then they gave us good news with something else that was happening.
Then they
Can't
gave
even
us
remember what it was
Concord, and
now.
then they gave us
Yeah,
Astrobot. Then they gave us.
Astrobot. Yeah. So they give us bad news and good news, and then they shut down 2 studios and they gave us something else, and then they've done Shuhei's leaving, and then we haven't got the good news bit yet because nothing's happened for the 30th anniversary, so something else must be coming. But you're talking to a few different people. It's a you know a lot of people are really nervous about his exit and are really upset to see him leaving.
Mm.
I'm actually excited by the opportunity that's in front of him. He's still probably got or 4 or 5 solid years left before he hits the proper retirement button, just because of his age. And if him not traveling around the world is gonna give us more time for Shuhei to be engaged in gaming at whatever he chooses to do. It may just be that he freelances his way around a half a dozen gaming events, or he's a basically can be contracted in to give opinions on indie and small games. Great, his talent and his eye for picking them up is still sharp. He was at PAX
Hmm.
this year in Australia, and we didn't quite cross paths with him, but he was got around the game floor there, and I was chatting to some of the developers that he'd been there playing their games, and the feedback that he gave them in a 5 minute conversation was just like gold. And he'd spent most of the because they have a so not open to the public day on the Thursday, so it runs Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but Melbourne International Game Week runs the week leading up to it. And at the convention center, all the developers and studios and all that get together around and have those meetings, those conversations. Basically, it's a week at the coffee shops, just catching up with everyone and talking about stuff. And Shuhei shows up, but he doesn't show up on his own. He shows up with the whole team. Greg Rice, Sean Benson, and a heap of other lackeys. I say lackeys, heap of other individuals that work in that team. And their sole job for Sony and PlayStation is go and find games and get them up to spec and get them on the platform and help developers out however you can. If Shuhei exits the team, as he said in the podcast and some of the other things, he feels like the team's in great hands to take the next step. Because remember, most of the people he's worked with are no longer there, and he's sort of the last of that group of the OGs and everyone that's come and gone since. If he's been in that role for 4 or 5 years, and generally when you're at that level of like executive level management, your rotation is 3 to 5 years, and then you rotate into something else. And if he's at the back end of his rotation, and Greg Rice is obviously the successor that has been spoken about to step up into that role. Shuhei's not got something that's interesting him to shift into. Well, it may be that he's just taking the opportunity to go and do something a bit more to his liking. He wants some more free time. He wants to travel less. He still wants to be involved. He's open for whatever. Hey, that's good news for us as gamers.
Hmm.
Is it going to put Sony in a bad spot? I don't think so, because as great as Shuhei is, he's um, done an excellent job over the last 5 years to build that team and get them basically trained and developed into what they need to do, and they are extremely good at what they do. So I'm
So
excited.
let
I'm
me let
excited.
me let me read these two super chats real quick. $20 from Stephen Leon. He called us plebes in the chat, and I said plebes, and so he's responding by a super chat. $20 super chat says plebes. Yes, Thrifty. You and Warawana are the queen of the plebes. PS5 Pro Master Race lives on. I'm in a mood today. Built two PCs today. Enjoy, brothers and sisters. I need alcohol. Rar. Man, hope you calm down a little bit. Love having you here, you my dude, and you absolutely know how to push every one of my damn buttons because I do not believe PS5 Pro Master Race. I would like to play the Xbox if they had anything I wanted to play. I've said that many times that they've almost won me over in the Xbox 360 era because of Halo, and PlayStation didn't have Halo. And all of my buddies played Halo, and I wanted to play with my buddies. But then Final Fantasy 12 and all these other things came out, so I didn't really care anymore. But they got close. They got really, really close. I'm sorry, not Final Fantasy 12. God of War. Sorry, different story. And then JP Loco with the 5 Australian. There's no urgency on Sony's end. No competition has made them a bit complacent. I actually agree. And I'm sad that I agree. I'm frustrated that I agree. I have been begging Xbox to step it up because I would constantly like say, "Hey, I don't want Sony to fall into this trap of just being at the top." Like, here's the problem with being at the top. So, I this is a football analogy, so bear with me, some of you gamers in here who don't play sports or watch them. I used to be a Texas Longhorn fan. They're a college team. That's not important. They won like they went 10-2 this year, and when they came over to play The Arkansas Razorbacks had lost all but 2 games of the year, and they come in and they just thought that the Arkansas team was just going to roll over and play dead, and that didn't happen. Arkansas ended up whooping their butts that year, and that's a big rivalry. These are two states that are like right next to each other, and there has always been this big, huge rivalry between the two. And so like and this was one of the last times that they were going to play for the foreseeable future. And so it was a big deal. And Arkansas showed up because the other team was at the top of the food chain and they got really complacent, thought they didn't have to work hard, thought they didn't have to practice, thought they could do whatever the heck they wanted. And well, yeah, they got their butts kicked. Now,
It happens.
it does. It happens in everything. You gotta so there's companies that started out the chat play persona. Yeah, that is my cue to change over to the Final Fantasy b-roll because I've had metaphor up too long. These folks are in here yelling at me now. But so there's companies that I used to purchase their products, then when the companies got big enough to where they no longer had to like I don't know, had to like live in that grassroots area where everything is bought local, everything is freshly made day of. There's no this, no that. Well, the problem is when you get bigger and when you start selling things to more places, especially like perishable items, you have to start doing stuff to make it shelf stable for longer because you need more inventory at the ready to sell. But then again, if it doesn't sell, you need to have all this other stuff in it. And so I've actually stopped buying certain food items because they come from companies that started out with all these clean ingredients and all these healthy ingredients, and then oh, Pepsi buys them. Well, that they're not they're not doing it anymore. They're not making all the healthy choices anymore. Because you know why? Because Pepsi's not going to do that. Pepsi's going to focus on their bottom line. And so then the quality goes down because they are now not worried about having to attract new customers. They have already sold to the larger company. Those type of things happen. And like that's just one example and I know it's not a direct one to one, but it's the same concept. Like eventually when you get big enough without proper competition, your quality of your product does end up going down. And
Depends on
PlayStation,
where you're looking at your competition from, though.
yeah, I guess. Like go ahead and can you unpack that? Actually, instead of me just saying I
Well,
guess, can you like what do you mean by that?
so if you take an extremely narrowed view of consoles is the competition for PlayStation, and they've only got Nintendo, who's about to come out with something that is going to explode and just suck up months and months and months, if not years worth of kicking the ass off PlayStation, and they're smart enough to stay out of sync with each other, right? And everyone's like, oh, Nintendo and PlayStation rivalry, this, that, and yes, they are rivals, which means that they push each other to be better for various different reasons.
Ish. They are the two rivals that barely interact with each other, but go ahead.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Nintendo attends every single PlayStation partner meeting for the last 7 years,
Oh, do they
and
really?
they are there. They've been there every year for the last 7 years. They attend every single partnership meeting. They attend every single meeting that where the big Japanese six publishers get together with PlayStation and Nintendo. They attend heaps of game conferences together. PlayStation foots the bill for Nintendo to show up at things. They work
No
really
way.
closely together. They do. It's phenomenal how closely together they work considering where they started. But
I
that's
thought that they were still
operating
like
as
complete enemies.
nope, 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 not at all. They act that's there's a difference. There's a difference between an enemy and a rival. They operate as rivals, which means they try to best each other, but they're always pushing to be better than each other, and they help promote
Okay.
each other to do better. If the enemies, which is PlayStation and or Nintendo versus Xbox, it's always a race to the bottom, and that's where the competition piece, where they say Xbox needs to show up to compete. Xbox's version of compete is let's drag you down to the gutter and beat the snot out of you when you've got no money. That won't improve PlayStation. That will force, as they've said before, we will outspend you. It's like, great. Xbox can try and outspend anyone they like. That doesn't mean that the quality of the product's going to be better. It just means that they're going to throw more money at causing more mayhem and collapsing the industry down to their level. It's been proven over the last decade that that's their MO. So I disagree with the notion that Xbox needs to push PlayStation harder, but I do agree with the point that if we're talking about PlayStation needs to, do better, well, yes, they do, but the competition isn't coming from within the console gaming space. The competition is coming from the broader entertainment space. And Sean said in his interview, and I thought it was really, really poignant. You're competing for time and money in people's spare time and their spare money.
Yes.
Now, if you've got an opportunity to entertain someone, you can either spend tens and hundreds of millions of dollars giving them this outlet of gaming, or they can just pick up a phone, which they already have, because it's not considered discretionary spending anymore. You need to have a phone to exist in this day and age.
Right, right. It's not a
So
luxury item anymore. It's a necessity.
it's right. It's a necessity. So they pick up their phone, they download TikTok for free, they download YouTube for free or whatever,
Mm.
and they can spend hours just being entertained there for nothing. That's the competition that they're facing at the moment, is how do we entice people to spend money with us versus spending nothing over there, and they can access it, and it's, social media and all the rest of it. That's the broader impact that they're having to deal with. And it's not just Sony who has to deal with that, because obviously Sony's got music and movies and TV and all this other crap. Nintendo's got the similar issue that they have to deal with, and Xbox has got a similar issue, and Steam and Valve and Epic and all the rest of them. They've all got the same problem. They're competing for a chunk of, again, small slice of a really big pie. So if the issue is you're competing against something that's available for free, you've obviously got to have quality. Well, if the focus then is internally, the studios at PlayStation are pushing each other for the first party stuff to be the pinnacle of the quality, then the frequency in which it comes out in doesn't matter, as long as you get a couple every generation, which is typically what they've done. Two or three first party games a year is a pretty busy year for PlayStation. So where they really need to focus on is ensuring that their partnership arrangements are producing more and more quality. Now, if that starts to slide, that's a problem. And that's where Shuhei and his team, and Sean Benson and her team, and third party engagements, and Xdev has got a phenomenal amount of money being pumped into it. That's where those parts of the organization, which are behind the scenes, but they're very important, make sure the game quality across the board keeps improving. And that's why Nintendo gets invited along to this stuff, because with a Switch and that technology that's there, they could quite easily just hit the cruise control button and the quality doesn't go anywhere. Bringing Nintendo up to say, come on, get up to this. Can you get up to this speed, please? Because we really want to make sure that the third party games are up to this level, but Switch can't handle it. Your next one, can you please make sure that it's at least at a PS4 or PS4 Pro level so you can get most of this crap?
So, so,
And,
so we can have a
even though
little
it's
bit,
totally
please.
different. Hey? Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. But, Square Enix has got a huge, they outsource all of their Switch development work. And Square Enix do a shitload of games on Switch. And only for Nintendo. You can't, how long did it take to get Octopath Traveler on PlayStation? And
Good point.
don't even Bravely Default, Triangle Strategy, all of those sort of um, indie style games coming out of Square Enix. They're not built by any of the Square teams, because the Square teams are just focused on building some stuff for PlayStation and PC. Same with
Yeah, but
Capcom.
those
Most of their
games are
Switch
some of
stuff
the
is
best
outsourced.
games coming from Square Enix. Like,
That's right.
I'm not even a freaking okay. So Bravely Default, don't know anything about it, but I know that that game when it hit caused a ruckus because people were just talking about it constantly. Like I remember when
Yeah.
Triangle Strategy was getting released, they marketed the heck out of it, and I saw it everywhere. But like
Yeah.
you drop a Final Fantasy 16 and it's like 3.5 million. You drop
Yeah.
a Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, 3.5 million. Like what are we doing when you have a Sea of Stars that pops out? And I know that's not Square Enix, but you have a Sea of Stars that pops out and sells 1 million in the first week. Like, what? Who do you think spent more? That's all I'm wondering. That's it. That's all I'm wondering. Like, we have games, and one of the things that was said by Sean was about the length of games, and it started a
Yeah.
really good chat in our Discord earlier about the length of video games because I remember, and you can actually see it when you look at the Pixel remaster you can actually see the trajectory of like, oh, Final Fantasy 1 is 12 to 15, 20 if you take your time, 10 if you use the run feature on there. Just heads up,
Yeah.
because I did. And, um, then you go to Final Fantasy 2, and it was also 10 to 15 hours depending. Then you move up to 3 and it was like 40 hours, 30 hours. Then you go to 4 and it was 40 to 50 hours. Then 5, then 6. And it kept getting bigger, and then by the time you got to 7, dude, I had 999999 hours in that game. I don't know how many hours I spent in Final Fantasy 7, but I know it was over 100.
Yep.
Final Fantasy 8, same thing. I think I beat that one in like 86 hours, 87 hours, or something like that. Final Fantasy 9, never beat it, probably won't. But like the games just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was just like it was almost a badge of honor. It seemed like in the JRPG space at least, where you'd be like, oh, there's this new JRPG coming out. Oh, really? How long is it? Oh man, it's like 100 hours of content. No way. Yeah. And like you and your buddies would get so freaking stoked about it because you were about to spend 70, 60, $50 on this game, and you knew that your summer was taken care of. You knew that your Christmas break, you were good. Like,
Oh yeah.
so I don't know if I and then look at a game like Baldur's Gate. Okay? Asmongold made this point earlier, and I thought it was genius. He basically had said, look at Baldur's Gate. There are people who have over 1,000 hours in that game and still have yet to do everything the developers put in there. And that game probably costs less to make than Ubisoft's Xdefiant did, or than Assassin's Creed Odyssey, or Valhalla. I mean, like these games are massive and huge and quality made by these companies, and these companies are giving us these games, and then we're looking at the next AAA game to come out and go, wait a second, why is the AA studio whooping y'all's ass? Why are they doing it better? Y'all are supposed to be the benchmark, and you're getting absolutely dog walked. It's not that we don't like long games; it's that we don't like shitty games. That's
Yeah.
that's
Well, look, there's a this is it comes. I don't want to get too much into the weeds on the businessy side of things here, but this directly relates to that point. If you've got massive corporate structure and you've got all these, and this is from the top level publishers up, Take-Two, EA, Ubisoft, six from Japan, the other major ones around the world, right? If you've got this massive corporate overhead, and you've got these sub-functional teams within that corporate overhead, and then you get into the development studios themselves and all their overhead running costs, and then you get down into the development teams themselves. The game is not, I've got to make enough money to pay for the people who made me. I've now got to pay the people who are managing and overseeing the team, people who are managing and overseeing the studio, and there might be multiple studios involved in making a game. Then I've got to pay for all the tech, and I've got to pay for the occupancy, I've got to pay for all this sort of stuff just within that studio unit itself. Now I've got to pay for the regional overhead. Now I've got to pay for the corporate overhead and contribute to all the crap that goes on at the top because someone's got to do the regulation, someone's got to do the governance, someone's got to do the senior management, someone's got to look after HR, payroll, paying the supply, bang, 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 all these additional functions. When you think about the size of the overheads that are required for
hmm
PlayStation needs to cover, their studios have to pay in for that. And then you've got like Ubisoft's got 22,000 employees and they've got a massive corporate overhead that they've got to pay into for that because they're global as well. Same with Take-Two, same with EA, same with all these other ones. The Japanese ones are a little bit more nimble because they don't have that big, but you've seen Square Enix struggles massively with their
yep,
global footprint to do that. That's why they sold off all the Western stuff because they
right.
just
And
couldn't handle it anymore.
funny enough, it was shortly after. So in I believe it was 90. You might know this better than me, or Josh in the chat, or one of y'all in the chat might be able to tell me. I think it was 99, early 2000 maybe, when they finally built the uh, Sony headquarters in, I believe, New York, or California. I
Mm.
can't remember which one, but they built their first headquarter over here then. And what's funny is shortly after that, they merged with Enix and became Square Enix. And then they had that long run of like just damn near Final Fantasy and shovelware. Like it was
Yep.
we're going to release Final Fantasy games and then we're also going to release this Nier game that was junk. It was so bad. We're going to release I think they did Drakengard if I'm not mistaken
Mm.
and Drakengard
Yep.
2 that looked hideous and were just not fun. And remember, I'm a Square nut hugger, so of course I was trying to buy them all and play them all, and they were all garbage. And like that was
Typical.
shortly. Yeah, go ahead.
They're a typical Square Enix game, and I've used that term plenty of times. You could, as soon as you pick it up, if you knew nothing else about it and you've played Square Enix games, you pick them up and you go, oh, "Yeah, that's a Square Enix game." They just have that
In
feel about them, don't they?
hang on, hang on. Josh said Square merged with Enix in 13. What did they
You're
do
thinking
in?
Eidos Studios.
Hang on. Square opens U.S. office. It's not gonna tell me. Square was founded. Oh, damn it. Squaresoft. Okay, so
They had a decent age in them. Picked up a
yeah.
few along the way. It's hard to remember which ones they've got and which ones they got rid of.
Yes, okay. So in 1997 was when they opened up their first team over here,
Mhm.
and then when did Squaresoft and Enix merge? No,
2003
they moved
is
in
when they merged.
2003. Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay, I
And then
could have swore.
2009 they bought Eidos Studios.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because Josh said it was 2013. Maybe he just fat fingered that.
Mm.
Uh, because yeah, no, I thought it was right around there. Because that's when because they shortly made the deal with Microsoft after that to start bringing games over to them because they were hemorrhaging money from all the bullshit that they were trying to release. Like
And that's the
every.
it's,
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, you're right. That's exactly right. When you make these moves and the reasoning is to try and break into a new market, you've got two choices. You can either partner with someone who's already there and go out at the play the long game and go at the steady pace, or you can set up and try and hammer your way into the market. If you don't have the right um, start like they did when they first set up in America and said, "Oh, we're just going to go forth and take over." The only thing that Square had available that Americans knew about were Final Fantasy games. And, what else is he going to do? Oh, we'll focus most of our expenditure on the big game, and then to backfill the rest of it, we'll just pump this shit out, and hopefully we sell a couple 100,000 copies just to keep the lights turned on.
They were so
Tell
bad.
me you haven't seen that business model somewhere before.
They were so bad. Like I remember getting near and I was like, "Oh, near. This is Final Fantasy. This is like an action game. It looks really cool. Like it had that anime style to it." So I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." Plus, I was like 13 maybe. So like any game that had a character with that type of hair, I'm 14. 14 or 15. Like everything was anime to me. Everything was if you had that spikier hair, if you had that look, then you were just anime. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then I played it and I was like, this game absolutely freaking sucks.
Hmm.
Now, mind you, I'm not talking about the newer Niers, I'm talking about Nier. It had a dude character, and all I remember was it. You had to walk and or run for like ever it seemed before you contacted or came in contact with anything meaningful in the game. It was absolute garbage. And this was before, because Square Enix did this also in Forspoken. Let's let's be honest. If you just run at normal pace in Forspoken, you're gonna walk for like 5 minutes or at least 2 or 3 before you like actually encounter anything meaningful. Which is why they
Yeah,
give you the really fast travel mechanic where you can like glide everywhere. But like
exactly.
you didn't have that in that game, and it was so bad. And that was like that honestly was the point when I was like, okay, Square, y'all got to do something because the shit you're giving us right now outside of your Final Fantasy line, it ain't it.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyways, my whole point with that was even when they started chasing that Western dollar, it hasn't gone really well for them.
No,
Like,
no, it hasn't. When you start those expansions, the costs just blow out, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. You've got a, you've now got an entirely new set of like a new market to operate in. So you've got all this new regulation and rules and all this reporting, all this other crap, and then you're in an entirely new country, so you got a new set of other things to worry about. And then you've then got the exchange rates because you're moving between currencies and all this other stuff. It can go pear-shaped really quickly and can destroy companies quite quickly as well. Um, you think about how many times they've tried to succeed. Square particularly has tried to crack the US market and succeed over there, and every time they try to set up over there, they just falter. They do a better job trying to attack it from home in Japan.
yeah, like, and that's the other thing that. So I have consumed a lot of content today over this topic because I fell into that hole, and it was really fascinating to me because um, you look at Eastern devs, right? And they're hiring out the wazoo. Like they are,
Yeah,
it's going bananas over there. They can't hire enough people. Folks are getting raises, folks are getting extra time off, folks are finishing games and making them come out fully complete and feature ready. And unless you're from Soft, most of them come out without glitches. Like it's really, really good.
yeah. The
And
discipline is phenomenal.
like it's and I will say this, even though I bag on FromSoft for everybody nut hugging them, but most of their games coming out with the stability of a wooden boat on a lake in the middle of a like cuz we have game companies over here that spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on video games, and if those things don't sell 20 million copies, everybody's getting fired.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
yeah,
Capcom been in the business longer than the PlayStation has been around. Let that sink. Like these companies who we're talking about, Bandai Namco, Capcom, those dudes have been here. They have been here for a long time. They have they have gotten massive. They have franchises that everybody knows that are iconic. They are lockstep with a company like PlayStation or a company like Ubisoft or a company like EA, like lockstep in terms of prestige in the gaming world. But for some reason, where their games sell a million, they're over the moon. They're super excited. When they sell 5 million, they're throwing parties.
mm,
When they sell
yeah, exactly.
7, 8, 9 million, you're getting a sequel greenlit. Hell, you probably got the sequel greenlit at 1 million, to be honest. But
Yeah,
why are they not getting inflated budgets? Why are they not going through the same problem? Why does Stellar Blade get to be made by a team of about 70 and come out and is amazing, and God of War Ragnarok gets to be made by a team of 270 or 370, whatever the number is. I'm sure I'm not accurate on that number. But like it comes out and it costs a fortune to make. And now I chose both of those because both of those are successes, but one cost a whole lot more, so probably on percentage alone, the ROI on Stellar Blade was probably a higher percentage than the ROI on God of War Ragnarok. Because if a game costs 400, 300 million to make, and you make 500 million on it, then you made an extra 200 million, right? That's how that works. But that is, and Falky, I'm probably messing up these numbers, but that's 40% over what you put in it, if I'm thinking correctly on that. Uh,
yeah.
I I might have
Right,
that wrong.
round numbers, it's close.
Okay, round numbers, it's close. But if you have a game like Stellar Blade and it costs 10, 20 million to make, maybe 30 million, but you made 70, 80, 90, $100 million off the sale of that game,
Mm,
your percentage on your ROI just went through the freaking roof.
yeah,
So
hundreds of percent.
Right. You're doubling, you're quadrupling your money.
Yeah.
And honestly, I I I got the same level of enjoyment out of both of those games. And
Yep.
it's so why what is the it Falky, I guess it just has to be overhead. Like because
That's the challenge. It's not just, so I
sorry,
shouldn't say it's
my
overhead.
brain hole is getting screwed over right now. Like go ahead.
It it's the So the immediate cost of the dev team doing it and how many people are touching it obviously it contributes to the cost of developing the game. But then you got to market it, you got to sell it, and then it's got to make enough money to pay for the overheads, and it's the state, national, corporate overheads, and all the rest of that stuff. Um, if you had 100 people working on a game, um, and it only took you 3 years to make it as instead of 5 years, well, straight away it's going to be 40% cheaper just in labor cost alone. So if you then consider what needs to go into a game and how many people are working on it and how long it's going to take to do it, and one of PlayStation's biggest issues is it's got Naughty Dog has got two teams, two and a half teams. It's mucking around doing TV stuff as well. It also runs the ICE department, and it also runs their was contributing to the internal visual arts department, and it also looks after their motion capture, their main motion capture department. Naughty Dog sits about what within within sight of Sony Santa Monica or something like that, or they're all within 100 k's of each other, sitting in that area or something like that. All these different a lot of these different major studios in the US and California, they all have different locations. They don't all sit in the same building. So now there's additional costs associated with that. But just getting back to all that extra stuff that Naughty Dog's got, it's got multiple buildings that has to house that stuff. And so it's got massive amounts of tech costs and all that as well. Someone's got to pay for that. Someone's got to pay for all of that stuff. And that's where a studio like Stellar Blade, made by Shift Up, it goes to it rents a mocap studio, somebody else's problem to deal with. They just rent for the time and they make the best use of the time they're there. They're prepared, they're ready to go. They're not mucking around, wasting days doing
Hmm.
what ifs, maybes, and these things are fun. We're in there, we're shooting what we got to shoot, we're out. People, we get people that know what the fuck they're doing, and it's done. And talking about the spit and polish that goes on to a game like Stellar Blade, they were leveraging off the game engine that was going to get it there and using specialist knowledge out of PlayStation and out of the engine developers and all the rest of it to make sure it worked. They weren't mucking around trying and fiddling their way through it. They carved out huge amounts of time, which means they've carved out huge amounts of their major input cost. But they don't have a huge overhead and they don't have a huge amount of people working directly on it. So you can make the game far cheaper and faster. And when you're prepared to not go for photorealistic graphics, but something that just looks really good and plays really well and smooth, you can get away with it because gamers will use their imaginations. I mean, it doesn't have to look, be 100% ray tracing, melt your skin off your face just by watching it through the TV because you're playing the percentages there. Most people aren't going to have a setup that's going to be able to get the best out of it. But when you think about all the additional costs that go along with, PlayStation has all of that crap, and then they've got to pay for their US overheads, which means their governance, regulatory, they're listed on the stock exchange. They've got all these additional costs because they've got to do all this reporting, and they've got audits, and they've got the HR, and they've got union stuff, and they've got this, and they've got that. And it's like it starts tallying up ridiculously quick, and their income comes from what? Game sales. So if the studios have got to chip in big dollars to cover all this stuff that just exist, and then they've got to chip in for the rest of it, it's ridiculous how much gets attributed to those games. But if PlayStation had no internal studios and just said we're a third party, we're a platform that just has third party games on us, we don't make any of our own games, they would obviously lose the ability to push the point on their hardware because they'd have to contract in studios to do that for them.
Hmm. Hey, now wait
But
a second. Isn't
you
hang
know,
on. Isn't there another company that is and understand? I, Wara earlier said it in the chat. that PlayStation and Xbox shouldn't be compared to each other because they're both on different trajectories, and I completely agree. I've actually been putting forward that all three of the platform makers are all three on different trajectories using different business strategies. But
Absolutely.
isn't there another company that has used that very same setup of, hey guys, can y'all come help us? I think Crystal Dynamics was one who came in
Yep.
to help on Perfect Dark. You've had other studios come in to help. You had studios that have had to reach out to them for like, hey guys, can y'all send some? Can y'all like, hey, can y'all come over here because we can't get our crap to work on your crap? So like, I don't know. Maybe that's not a good idea.
Yeah, that's right. But the I suppose the that costs money. It's not cheap.
No, it's not.
And that's the flow on effect from it. If you've got a concept and an idea and you muck around and you can't get it to work, and this is why so many more games get cancelled. In just use any of them. This applies to all of them. So many more games get cancelled that we don't hear about than what actually makes. Like the cancellation rate is like 60 something percent. Nearly two-thirds of all games that go into from conceptual idea into pre-production get canned.
Mm,
They just don't make it because of various different reasons.
I didn't realize it was that high.
Everyone craps on about these games get cancelled. This isn't fair. It doesn't matter. There's more that get cancelled that you don't know about. Because if you're really passionate about making a game, I spoke to a few devs at PAX about this and love talking about this as a point. Just go and learn how to use Unreal Engine. Go and learn everything you can about Unreal Engine. If you're really passionate about making a game, that thing is the plug and play to go and make it. Don't bother with Unity because you'll get screwed. Unreal Engine is just the easiest one to learn to go and get trained on, start putting stuff in there, and you can produce good looking games with minimal team requirements, people inputs. I've seen which one was it?
Minimum input,
What the
maximum stutter. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, but we used to back in the day, PS1, PS2, you'd get games that were on a disc and they'd have these weird little quirks to them, like a frame rate
They
drops
so
or something
would.
would happen.
They would.
And there'd be a wall missing, and all you can't. Why can't I walk between here and there? There's supposed to be a freaking wall there, and there's blank space. It's like,
My favorite
and
is
there'd
when
be
like
little glitches.
they started putting like moving grass in like certain games, and but when you were
Yeah,
walking through it, if too many of the blades moved, your frame rate dropped to like 2. It was so
yeah.
bad.
Or the grass would be it was either standing or it was flat, but it
Yeah.
was in squares. And you'd stand here,
Yes.
and the whole square would flop down.
But
Um,
but half of the
or,
square wouldn't move, and only the top like 4 inches of the grass would move. It was.
yeah, or 2D. So things like with
Uh,
Final Fantasy VII, they had these picture painted backgrounds and these little 3D sprites running around of it. But sometimes they'd get out of alignment depending on what TV you had, and you'd be like, I need to go through there, but I can't. It doesn't look like I can go through there, and because of some crappy lighting or something, you can't see your pathway forward. So you're just constantly running around the map, banging into everything to try and figure out where the friggin' hell you got to go. Um, but those sort of quirks, we're chuckling about them now. We just accepted those. These days, God forbid that even occur, because you would
yeah.
get slaughtered in the reviews, you get slaughtered in the feedback. But we just, oh yeah, cool, that's a quirk, off we go. Um, but yeah, just the cost of fine tuning and ironing out all that stuff, just it makes some games prohibitive to make. Now, I cannot remember the name of the game, unfortunately, that I was thinking of. It's not the Callisto Protocol. It was something similar to that.
You talking about Redacted?
And it was uh, Redact.
No,
No,
Redacted is the new game set in the world of Callisto Protocol.
yeah, no,
You're
it's not.
talking about Dead Space?
No, it's a
No.
different one. Quantum
Callisto
Error.
Protocol.
Quantum
Uh,
Error might be that one. Team Kill Media made it.
yes.
Four brothers. Yep,
Yes.
four brothers. Spent 2 years making that game, and the outcome of that was, um, it was all right, but it was a bit janky and it was a bit iffy here and there. But it was. I think it was just like a 6 out of 10 or something when it launched. But there's a heap of people who just liked playing it because it ticked a few boxes for them. Four guys took 2 years to make that game. And the four brothers have now said, "Oh, we've got a second one coming, and we've got another game coming, and we've got two more after that. We've got a roadmap of 5 games we want to make." Four brothers, they're making it in their spare time. That's awesome. And
That's so
I
cool.
cannot just that's where we've gotten to. And they can do that because they get enough out of the sales for it that they found a business model that works for them for a passion they want to do. And people are enjoying it. Now, they could go and spend millions and millions of dollars bringing in all these massive publishing pieces. They could get experts in to do all the fine tuning. They could throw teams of tens and tens of people at fine tuning, get the story redone, and all this sort of stuff. Would we get much better than what we got? Possibly, but is it worth that, 10 or 20 times increase in cost? No, you're not going to get that kind of piece out of it. Look at the Callisto Protocol's pretty decent game. I thought it was pretty good for what went into it. Um, and you know, went out, didn't do all that great, had a few bugs and a few issues and a bit of a negative thing, and all of a sudden the studio director gets the ass and the whole thing gets shut down. So why did that happen? Because the
Yeah.
publisher couldn't support the game. They needed that game to perform, otherwise it was gone. And they couldn't afford to keep it, so they just shut the whole thing down and sacked everyone.
Which is
They
crazy
weren't that
because
fun.
then there's a game, and from what the excerpt read, it's set in the Redacted is like a top-down twin stick kind of shooter type survival rogue style game. And it's set in the same world. And oh, hey, real quick, Twisted Sin member for 6 months. Hell, I follow a ton of indie devs on Twitter, and they have said multiple times that a lot of game projects they did never really worked out. Yeah, dude, we hear from these.
Imagine that.
Like, I remember hearing interviews of like these devs talking about games that they've pitched before, and I'm sitting here going, damn, I kind of want that game. That game sounds freaking fun as hell. But they were just like, you could never, they couldn't get over it. Oh, hey, Stephen Leon, it begins. Switch to fund for the kids. You can't stop me. Been drinking. I can't be stopped. We are sleeve monkeys. Happy to be here. Uncle Davy's always awesome. That's funny. That's great. That's Stephen Leon with the 20. Oh my goodness. Yeah, he asked in the chat earlier what fund that we should start for Thrifty next, and I was like, listen, that's up. No, I'm not gonna ask y'all for money. I've never begged y'all for money, and I won't start now. If y'all
Have,
wanna do
have you ever
stuff, and
been?
that's
Have you ever been to the Super Bowl?
no. Oh.
There's a good fun to start for anyone who's interested. See if you can get him a ticket to the Super Bowl.
No shit. No, because my team will never be playing in the Super Bowl as long as I live. So that's fine. It's never gonna happen. But no, but yeah, I mean, I didn't expect to spend an hour and a half on, or an hour and 20 minutes on this topic alone. But like, as gamers, this is a weird trend to be trying to follow because on one end you have all the DEI, all the agenda, all the Western studios that keep closing down and keep releasing these games that people have a lot of DEI problems with. And if you look at a lot of the games that have flopped, you can trace it to that. Like, I'm not making a stretch here. You have that aspect of it, but then you also have the more solid, hard, concrete. Hey, listen, when you have so the company I work for is massive. We are probably one of the largest HVAC companies in like the tri-state area. But we're also for dang certain not the cheapest. But it's because we're the largest. And so like the
Hmm.
technicians, we also don't get paid just the most everywhere out of any of the AC companies around. But we also don't have to deal with 95% of the bullcrap that other places do because we have people in place that take care of all of that bullcrap. And those people cost money. And so, because of that, there's always this give and take. We also have the ability, because we're so large, that we stand behind everything that we do. And if it's our problem, I have literally been out at a house before and I smoked a unit. Literally, just killed the compressor. Dead. My fault. All the way around. I called into my boss and was like, hey, dude, I kind of screwed this up. And he was like, okay, well, let's get one ordered, see how fast we can get it there, and put it in. I didn't get in trouble. I didn't get reprimanded. I didn't get wrote up. I didn't get nothing. Customer didn't pay us a dime. I got no money taken out of my paycheck because we're massive and we can absorb a $4,000 to $5,000 loss. Like, So there's benefits of it, and there's also downsides of it. Because, yeah, could I go somewhere else and make more? Sure. But what am I giving up? And that's what, in the gaming industry, that's what we kind of have to look at is like with AAA gaming, and I use that term talking about the big ones like PlayStation, EA, Microsoft Gaming, like the big, big people, the Square Enixes, the Ubisofts. What are we having to give up to get there? And what we give up a lot of times is a faster cadence. What we give up a lot of times is games coming out that are thankfully not from PlayStation, not much at least. We've had a couple. But we get games that come out that are half baked, that are either pushing an agenda or they're just junk games. Like it's not it's not good anymore from these big studios. And there's no fancy way that I can think of to say that. Like it's just not good. Like Star Wars Outlaws, yes, having fun in a game is great, and I am so happy for anybody who's been able to play that game and have fun. The game looks like absolute hot garbage, so I'm never touching it. That is point blank, period. I think she looks like a mouse on like the body of a toothpick, and it's weird. Like her head proportions are fucked up. It's weird. And so like I just can't do it. She looks goofy as all hell. And that's not the way she's supposed to look. It went for a realistic art style, and she doesn't look right. So cool. I'm not going to play Dragon Age the Veilguard because of the DEI stuff that's in it. I've made that point very clear on here. So, two games I'm not playing for two separate reasons, both from big, massive ass companies. Now, granted, I know they're both from the same publisher, but still, like, not. I'm sorry. Wow, Veilguard is not from Ubisoft. My bad. Um, but like,
EA. I was gonna
it's
say
EA. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't sure if you
I,
carrying
I
to
said
say.
that way wrong. Um, but like, both games from two massive companies, AAA developers, made some of my most enjoyed games ever. And I'm talking about Ubisoft in that, and I'm talking about EA. Like, back in the day, EA had hit after hit after hit after hit. But, anyways, when they get bigger, they have that overhead. And so, whether it's the overhead or it's the messaging of these Western studios or a combination of both, I do believe that AAA Western gaming, as we know it, is going away. But I do also feel like that does leave a lot of room for companies like ShiftUp to produce a AAA game at a AA level, if that makes sense.
That it does, and that's exactly why Shuhei and his team have been so instrumental over the last 5 years, and why Sean Benson and Greg Rice are going to be so important to PlayStation strategy going forward, which is the partnership strategy. Utilize the partners, give them the tech, direct input tech and advice, story writing advice, production advice, whatever it is. Just put your hands on it where they need to, and as long as it's coming to the platform and they can get their money when they sell it out the storefront, happy days. That's their strategy. It's PlayStation strategy. They make more than 75% of their revenue off third-party sales,
Mm,
and that's why they have such a huge XDev team. Why they have such a huge engagement team. That's their model at the moment. Because if you think about maybe it costs them, uh, that they offer they do the partnership arrangement, so they get 100% of the publishing and 30% of the sell out the storefront, and the partnership studio gets, I don't know, tens of 10 or $12 million or whatever the outcome is once they get past that point, or they get 80 something percent of the sales, gross sales, net sales revenue, or whatever it works out to be. If the input from PlayStation is we'll give you 10 million bucks to get it finished, or we'll give you 20 million bucks to get the game done, and we'll provide as part of that $20 million, we'll give you the expert knowledge and support with the engine and all the rest of it, plus you get a bit of a marketing deal included. That is 10 times cheaper than Spider-Man 2,
mm-hmm.
and they can get it done 2 years faster than Spider-Man 2 or God of War Ragnarok. and they don't have to employ people internally to do it. So the cost savings are phenomenal in
Whoa,
that
we've
respect.
had this conversation. We had this conversation when we talked about. You were on the show because we were talking about third-party deals or second-party deals
Mm.
versus first-party games, and you had made this same connection, talking about how it's cheaper for them in a lot of instances to go and grab a second-party developer and like to grab a game like a Stellar Blade instead of
Yeah,
opening up a whole new studio, buying them, integrating them, bringing them in, paying for that, having to take up that overhead and having to do all of that. They
yep.
just get the game for some extra support and maybe some extra financial backing. Like I, I'm not making that up, right? Like we've
No,
had this
that's right.
discussion, right?
We have. We have. We've had this discussion on this show more often than I've had it on other shows.
That's what I
But
thought.
and
Like,
here's a crazy point. Just a quick illustration. Direct cost of developer straight up. The average dev cost in the US for an annual salary is about 150,000. When you look at what the flat rate is plus some bonuses and overtime bits and pieces that they get. The reported average for a decent, really good software developer in a gaming studio in the US is about $150,000 a year. When you add on the on costs, the labor, the tech and occupancy training, and all this other stuff that goes along with having those people, and in medical insurance and all this other stuff, it's nearly $300,000 per person per year if you have a studio in the US. And if you're talking about having 100-person team, you're looking at $30 million a year just to have those guys working and girls working. That's not factoring in all the other overhead stuff you got to have around them to support that, which is your IT department, your HR department, your finance department, your board, and your governance points. And you add all that stuff up, a 100-person team can quite quickly blow out if you've not got the synergies. How many partnership games do you reckon you could get built for 30 million a year?
I'm telling you. Like, just
So, and like this loops all the way back to the conversation we are having at the start, where we're both annoyed at different levels about PlayStation not spending money on the big grandiose celebration for 30 years. I would much rather they not piss money up the wall on celebrations that don't make any sense. Uh, I would much rather they take that money and invest it and get me some more games, but sensibly.
sure, but at the same time, for 30 years, I think that deserves a celebration.
I I agree.
But like what you were saying earlier about like the Spider-Man Day and the Ragnarok or and the God of War Day
Yeah,
and all that, fuck all that shit. Give me, just give me a 30 year, give me a 35 year, give me a 40 year, and just like make sure that like they could have come out and said, like, 30th year anniversary, blah blah blah. Here's to the next 30, to celebrate his lifetime achievement uh, with PlayStation. Here's Shuhei Yoshida to come out and talk about some of the highlights over the years and give a brief history on our company, and just to go down those memories with all of you, the gamers. They could have brought out Benson to do it. She loves being in front of the camera. She's been in front of the camera in every
oh
single
yeah.
freaking show that they've had. Like, get her on. The audience
Isn't
knows
she
her.
so much better than Jim Ryan though?
Oh my
Isn't
god.
it so much to see her instead of Jim Ryan? Jim's a great. Jim's an absolute shark, and he's an absolute gun. But he was hopeless in front of a camera.
He was terrible. But like, and
Yeah,
don't bring Herman Holtz out because his accent is very thick. And so like don't do that, but bring a Shuhei. Like they could have done so much for so little. Put Shuhei in
that's right.
front of a gosh dang green screen and him and Corey Benson, right? That's her name, right? Uh,
Sean Benson.
Sean Benson, thank you. I knew it was a name that could be male or female or masculine or feminine.
Yep.
Um, but like you get Sean Benson and him, maybe do a Q&A like, "Hey, so you were here a year before the PlayStation even launched. What was it like in those formats?" Like, gosh dang it, I could have done the fucking
Yeah,
questions.
you
Anyways,
could have had Kirsten Zatani or Tim Turi or someone from the comms team doing that. It's
yes.
a couple of years ago at PAX when Shuhei came over, did a guest spot with him. and they had, and his name's just completely eluded me now. He's from one of the major gaming news outlets in Australia, and he is a brilliant journalist. There's very few of them that get around, but he's a brilliant journalist, and he's a great interviewer. And he did a 45-minute chat with Shuhei and just covered some really amazing stuff. And he did another interview a couple of weeks ago with SXSW, South by Southwest or whatever it is,
Oh
in
yeah,
Sydney. He's all over the place. He's running around like a headless chook everywhere, and he talks so well. He's got a thick accent, but he's just really good at articulating his point. And you're right, they could have done it for next to nothing, and that's what I mean. They had options that they could have done. I'm not surprised they didn't. I'm disappointed they didn't. They could have done these really cheap options and still had this money available to do other stuff. But using money as an excuse, not announce them. And another thing that we can get into shortly, but around gaming announcements and that. But even if they just said, Shuhei's going to talk about, he's leaving. He's going to do an ode to PlayStation and talk about it. That's great. We've got these other little perks and quirks and things, the background for the consoles and these other cool things. Hey, we've got, everyone knew about my first Gran Turismo was coming, and here's the launch date for that. Oh, by the way, we're finally going to give you what you've been screaming at us for forever, which is Bloodborne on PC with a 60 FPS update. If they'd have said that, that's all. That's it. That was year one. That was done. That was everything. Victory, chalk it up. Victory laps everywhere,
yes.
or something like that. All you're doing there is just saying we figured out how to do this. We cut a deal. It's cost us 4/5 of nothing because that thing is going to sell again like hotcakes, and people have paid $15 for the
Hmm.
upgrade. They would have climbed over themselves to pay $15 for the upgrade on the
They
PlayStation, the PlayStation
absolutely
5
would have.
Pro, and the PC brand new purchase and all the rest of it. They'd have made a bundle out of
Well,
that.
and it's also pretty jacked up because the Ultimate Edition is on sale right now as part of the PlayStation 30th anniversary
Exactly.
sale.
Exactly. So,
Freaking pisses
a
me
little
off.
bit of forward thinking, and that would have just won. That would have not just won won the competition for the day. That would have won the internet for the year. The flip side to that is it now gets into this zone of, well, they didn't do anything. We know they've got stuff they're going to talk about because they've already told us they're launching games in March, and usually we get a 1 to 3 month window. They never do anything in January. So they're either
Mm-mm.
going to tell us in February, a month out from when it happens, or they've got something lined up for the TGAs. And when you do a little scratching around and you see how much other developers are paying to put stuff in the TGAs for announcements,
Mm.
and we all know that there's only two companies that don't pay to be at the TGAs for announcements.
What are those two companies, Falky?
One's blue and one's red.
That's just that's just no. There's no green. There's no green. It's
No,
just-
Green has to pay to show up. They got to buy their tickets still. Um, no, they don't get the special treatment because look, last year PlayStation shows up with two I say minor items. The two items they showed up with, one of them was Lego Horizon, and that
Mm.
warped everyone's brain out of its socket. But there's no guarantee that they pushed TGAs back a week this year from where it was the last couple of years, and everyone went, oh well, Sony must be going to do something. They may very well do something a day or two before the TGA. They've done that in the past, but if they're going to get paid to make announcements at these awards shows where they know there's 70 or 80 million people are going to show up to it, why wouldn't you?
I
Why
mean,
not? If Keeley's dumb enough to pay PlayStation to be there, show up and make announcements just to get the eyes of the world on the whole show, which is why it has one near the start and one near the end, why not? He's basically saying to all the third parties and all the other publishers, you're going to pay me to have a spot in this show, this awards show, which is, in my opinion, over way over pompous. Um,
yeah, I
it's just
really
way over
liked your
bloated.
post on that where you had mentioned the two
Yeah,
other award shows that are user led and peer led. I thought
yeah.
that was really cool because I didn't know. I knew about the Golden Joystick, but I didn't know about the
Mm.
second one that you mentioned. And I got to go
Oh,
back to the post, but like
Dice. Dice
Dice.
Awards
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
so
Dice.
so the Dice Awards are industry awards run by, and people can look it up. It's pretty easy to find. Wikipedia's got a really accurate piece about it if you don't want to go to Dice and fumble around and read it all. So that's peer reviewed. So it's from people within the industry, and there's a standard in which they have to meet to be nominated, and then an even further standard in which they're marked against to get the award. It's the only one of all the award shows that happen. It's the only one where there's a standard that has to be met to be nominated, and then further to be the winner. And it's voted on by nominated representatives within the industry across all the different sub functions and subsections of it. But the people that are voting have got knowledge on on what they're voting on. So if they're talking about best musical score in a game, people who make music for games are the ones voting on it. It's peer reviewed down to that level. It's not old mate from IGN decided that him and five of his other IGN cohorts are all going to vote for this game because they like this particular thing on it. And all the media companies effectively, which vote at TGA, are just getting together and saying, well, this is our game of the year because it ticks all of our boxes on what we want to promote. And so I made that post.
Some of them
Joystick
aren't even a
Awards is,
game. Sorry, go ahead.
no, they're not. Joystick Awards is fan based. So Golden Joysticks used to be just for the UK, but it got expanded. It's run by Game Radar, I think. Can't remember which one runs it now. But it's you go in there and you just here's the categories. Which one's your best in this category? The nominations are put in there by people nominating games into it, and then they run through and go, "Yep, here's your choices," and it's only people, the fans. And that's what I say. You look at what comes out of the Golden Joysticks and what comes out of Dice, and in the last few years, they have been so parallel in the outcomes being so similar that the games nominated are almost exactly the same, and the winners coming out are to point each way. You know, one could have won it, one the other could have won it, and they're so close. And the game awards are eons out of over to the left. They're so far out of whack, it's not funny. Which says players and the people playing the game, the people making the games are aligned in what they like. But the media, that whole and sole purpose of their
Hmm.
livelihood revolves around reporting and talking about the news and the games, they're over here and got no clue. They're in a bubble on their own.
Dang.
And
That's
that's
a
why,
that's a
again,
larger. That's a not. No, that is a larger issue than just in the gaming space. Like that tends to be what's being realized by the masses in entertainment. What's being like movies. Sorry, I've always separated movies, TV, and video games. Like they're not all. When you said earlier that it's all the entertainment market, I was like, wait, no, it's well, hell yeah, I guess it is. It's all competing for my time. It's all competing for my. And then but like in my brain initially, I was like, no, they're not the same. My TV and my movies are totally different because they're not video games. I can't interact with them. But anyways, um, one of
sorry,
the
a
yeah, go ahead.
sorry to walk you down. So I was just saying, I didn't mean to walk us down that tangent, but it was just touching on, the money and all the rest of it. If PlayStation is going to show up at the Game Awards and make some announcements there, and they're getting paid hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to show up and do a couple of 30-second snippets and wheel one or two people out to talk about something, great, why not? But if it's robbed us of an opportunity of having something yesterday or the day before, sorry, it was the day before for me, it could be yesterday for you. I'm that annoys me because it didn't have to be much, even if it was a scissor reel about what's to come. A massive, awesome run through of here's the history, the couple of minutes of all these high value IPs that they've got, just bang, 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 and so many people enjoyed that. Just reminding them about their history of their time with the PlayStation itself. If they'd have said thank you for playing, finish that video, and then an hour later said, now here's what's coming for you, and just went bang, 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 bang about the half a dozen games we know they're making because they've told us. I wouldn't have cared if it was a 10-second CGI look at Wolverine and then look at Ghost of Yohei. Not Yohei, is it Yohai?
Yotai.
Yotai, sorry. I'm talking about Shuhei for so long, I'm getting it mixed up.
Ghost of, Ghost of
You know,
Yotai.
those Ghost of Utah, and then whatever's coming from Corey Soon, whatever's coming from Neil. Show us the snippet of the Last of Us TV show. Show us a snippet of the next season of Twisted Metal, because that thing's an absolute hoot. I can't wait to see the second season of that. Just show us half a dozen things in a 90-second trailer would have been fine. But
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
anyway, sorry, I
No.
jumping around on subjects. I just want to finish that point, so then we can continue on with the other one.
Yeah, let's actually. Okay, so in a very, very organic way, we have discussed PlayStation's 30th birthday. We've discussed AAA gaming being dead. We've kind of beat that one, and we've also discussed Shuhei leaving PlayStation and what that means. I'm. I think there's smoke. I, unfortunately, following my own rules, unless the company comes out and says it, or we get a report from Shu himself, I have to I have to stick by what I say and judge it by the information I have. And right now, everything looks amicable. He's leaving PlayStation. I Yeah, and honestly, hearing Falky talk about this, I have a little bit of a renewed hope um, because of Sean Benson. She has done some excuse me, really good things. Um, we have a couple other things real quick, guys. We are an hour and 41 minutes in. We've had as high as 28 viewers, and we're still sitting at about 11 likes. Let's go ahead and bring that up a little bit, please. If you're just listening, hop on in real quick, hit the like button. Helps out tremendously. You have no idea. And so, yeah, we will get. Let's keep going though. Let's get over here. And so we've talked about that. We talked about that. Sorry, I'm closing out tabs. All right, let's talk about this because this is funny. This is amazing. I'm absolutely baffled by this. Let me pull it up real quick. Uh, so the specs came out, and by the way, I'm not a PC guy. I'm never going to play this game on PC or on Xbox. If I ever play it, it will be on a PS5, and I might play it just for the memes alone. But Indiana Jones has released the requirements, and boy, it's bad. It's real bad. Let me pull this up real quick. All right, and bang. There we go. So let me zoom in real quick so y'all can see this. There we go. That should be a little bit better for every. Well, that didn't help. Let's try that again.
So, for anyone who
There
was
we go.
wondering, don't play it on PC because it can't even bring the specs up for
No shit. Okay, so listen to this.
it.
Minimum requirements. By the way, I bought my PC for $1,200. I actually know what GPU I have in this thing. Um, So we're gonna base that. This is a $1,200 rig. I'm sorry, it was $1,000 rig. Now it is I think it's about $900. It's dropped about $100. Okay, so it's a little old, mid-level. Let's see what it can do. Let's see where I can play this thing at. Okay, so for graphics on minimum setting, no ray tracing, just minimum. SSD is required. GPU hardware ray tracing required, graphic preset low, resolution 1080p, target 60 FPS. Okay? You need an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060. I don't know what half these words mean. There we go. AMD Radeon RX 66, 8 gigabyte. Okay, I know that my system is better than that. Awesome. Let's see. What do I need for, wait, 32 gigs of, Jesus. Okay, so funny enough, I have the graphics card and I have the processor because I'm on the AMD Ryzen 7 and I have the RX 77 XT with the 12 gig. But the problem is memory. I only have 16 gigs of memory. So I can't play this game with a $1,200 PC that was on sale for $1,000 back in April. I cannot play this game at the recommended settings. I will be locked to a 1080p 60 FPS if I played it on this. Okay, so let's see. If I want ray tracing, how bad does it get? Okay. You need for recommended settings, okay? AMD Ryzen 7 7700. Perfect. I have that. Mine's at 3.83, I believe. And so I have that. Great. 32 gigs, still don't have. And then for damn certain, I do not have an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4080 16 gig graphics card. Guys, that's dumb. That's dumb.
Question. Question. That's the specs to run it with ray tracing on a PC, right?
Uh-huh.
And what happens if it puts on a PS5 Pro and it runs flawless ray tracing over 60 FPS? Locked. Is that going to kill the debate, or
Well, so what's really funny is earlier on, people were comparing it, not morons, but like people were comparing it to the 4070s. And the 4070 is the minimum required card to have ray tracing, full ray tracing at 1080p 60 FPS. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like performance mode on the Pro. That's just
it does,
that's,
doesn't it? So what was it you need? You need an NVIDIA RTX 4080 to
yes,
run
to
ray
do
tracing.
recommended settings at 1440p 60 FPS target.
Is that 60 FPS target? Is that 32 gig or the 16 gig?
32.
Would you like to know how much one of those costs in Australia?
I'd love to know. Tell me.
That is over 2.5 grand for the card
Oh,
alone.
oh shit.
I can get
Damn.
a PS5 Pro for 1,200 bucks off the shelf.
Dude, I'll be
Tell
honest,
me,
man.
tell me again.
When
Tell me
I
again.
saw this, the first thing I thought was, holy crap,
Jesus
it's
Christ.
going to be a bloodbath if in March this game comes over to PlayStation and it has ray tracing on the Pro. It's just gonna be a bloodbath. The second thing I
Well,
thought was, who the hell is going to be playing this game with ray tracing outside of the reviewers who have large enough channels to have that set up?
no one, because no one's gonna have it. Like most people have a TV that does 60 FPS. Some will do have that are really serious about their gaming. They'll have the 4K 120 FPS.
You're damn straight we do. Sorry, go ahead.
Who the, like unless you've got the $4,000 or $5,000 setup, and no one's really pouring that kind of money into their setup because let's be honest, most people play Fortnite, and you can get away with a PS4 for that.
Josh
Like
Josh in the chat said, "What about the S?" He's like, y'all are looking at this the wrong way. What
you
about
can
the
hear the
lowest denominator?
you can hear the S silently rocking in the corner in the fetal position, begging for it to not have to be put to work to try and get that thing to run.
Shit.
Will it even is it? I haven't looked at the specs that close. Will it work on an S? Certainly won't do the ray tracing or anything.
Well, you know what? We have the internet. Hang on. Well,
It's going
well,
into. Is it the other thing too? Is it launching into Game Pass?
yes.
And if it is it going into the bottom level of Game Pass or is it going into the mid tier?
I think it's
I'm pretty sure it was the bottom level of Game Pass. You got to wait 12 months for your new games now, haven't you?
yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Like, I don't think they have day and date anymore on the bottom one.
No. I got a bit of pushback. I put a tweet out that said, talking about this. Like I've heard nothing. I've seen something go up on the PlayStation YouTube channel, but they haven't spruiked it really hard, and they should. And I've seen one comment made online. I've not seen any online advertising. I've not seen on any of the social media platforms. I've not seen anything on TV in Australia about it. You wouldn't even know this game was coming, let alone it being the first major release since that June Xbox Live masterpiece that happened. It's the first major release we've gotten out of that thing, nearly 6 months later. And crickets. Like, why are they not screaming this from the rooftops? It might be different in another country,
Um.
but we've got nothing down here.
So they're saying it's supposed to run. Oh, no, no, no. I've already covered this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle aims to run at 60 FPS on both the Series X and the Series S. Good luck.
60
Good
FPS.
luck.
What are they going to whip out the old NTSC version? Jeez, 60
Oh.
FPS, 627 lines.
Stephen Leon
Most
just
people
said.
listening to this wouldn't even know what NTSC is.
Stephen just said, "Damn, I can actually play it on PC at Ultra without ray tracing, but why would I?" That's.
Might I don't know. And this is a crazy thing. it may come out and it may be a graphical masterpiece.
It's
It
not.
may be, it may not be a graphical masterpiece, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on its first week of release, it was not a graphical masterpiece.
It was not.
Um, was not. Just it was good enough to carry for that week because the music was great and everyone was interested in the storyline.
Neither
But
was
some of the
remake, to be
graphics on,
fair. Also,
you know, I don't. Yeah, we've covered off on my dislikes about that game a few times, but yeah, if a first person version of Indiana Jones, if it's graphically dodgy and it runs janky as shit on the Series X and S, and you need a fucking supercomputer to play it on PC, it will be nails in the coffin if it rocks up on PS5 Pro and it runs seamlessly at 60 FPS with full ray tracing and it's not
holy
janky.
shit. Listen to this.
It
Okay,
will
so
cause huge uproar.
if you want ultra settings, okay? This is ultra ray tracing. This is everything. 4K upscaled, target 60 FPS, all of it, frame generation, DLSS 3, everything, okay? If you want all of it. Oh, and by the way, with frame generation and super resolution, let's key in on that just a bit. Um, and we're going to get back to that in a second. But you need an AMD Ryzen 7 7900X at 4.7 gigahertz or better on a processor. I don't know a lot about PC parts, but I know enough to know that that bastard is screaming at that point. That thing is a Ferrari in your PC. You need 32 gigabytes RAM of memory. You need an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4090 24 gig, and then you're going to need 120 gigs of storage. My God. So, to get the latest from Microsoft Gaming to run the best possible version of itself. Understand me what I'm saying here. To run the best possible version of itself, you're looking at, I'm just going to spitball this, 5 to 6 grand? I would say 5 to 6.
It'll be US dollars. I'm
Yeah,
looking at
yeah.
something like that online here in Australia, and we're looking at $12,000.
Oh, dear Jesus. I was like,
Yeah, his credit
ouch.
card doesn't even go that high. Don't worry about
this
that.
this credit card doesn't go that high. That's right. Like, holy crap, guys. Like, I have I have a PS5 Pro sitting here that I bought a beautiful chrome stand for. I bought the new controller, the teal one that's absolute not the teal one, sorry, the purple one that's actually like a bluish purplish greenish thing. I love it. I've bought that for it. I bought the other thing that you had to buy for the disk drive, got that for it, and I spent a grand total of $538 after tax. Oh, and I renewed my GameStop Pro membership. So you can throw that in there too. So like I get ray tracing, I get super sampling, uh,
Imagine that.
I get um, 4K upscaled images
Is
at
that the
a
super? Sorry, the super sampling is the PSSR. Is that
yes,
what it is? Yeah, the
PSSR,
pisser.
PlayStation Super Sampling Resolution.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I can't remember who came up with that. And someone said, "Oh, PlayStation's got the pisser," and I'm like,
yeah. That was
"What?
Porter Rock.
What's going on here?"
That was
Yeah,
P-Rock.
that was right. That was
Yeah,
freaking hilarious.
it was great. And like because because and what's even funnier about this is that I I really I'm like I'm one more week away from probably calling it as like a prediction that it's going to have ray tracing on the PS5 Pro and it's just going to cause a riot. But the
Oh yeah.
only reason I don't is because I think Xbox is not that dumb. I don't think I understand giving stuff a pro upgrade and things like that, like Call of Duty and stuff, but like I can't in my brain think that they would be dumb enough with a console still on the market to put their best chance at having a hit right now because everything else they put out is junk. This is their next in line to, hey, can we actually produce a good game? Like, they don't want this to be a failure. They need it to be a hit. They want it to be a hit. And I'm talking about like them as Xbox, not what we see from the game itself being janky and looking like crap and probably going to be a flop and all this other stuff. They need it to be a hit for Xbox. And so I don't think that they'll allow it to have ray tracing. And if they do, holy cow. It's beyond over at that point. I don't want to hear another thing from any. I don't want to hear the PS5 Pro was overpriced. I don't want to hear the PS5 Pro isn't that good. I don't want to hear that you can just buy a PC for that same price. I don't want to hear that they made you buy the accessories separately. I don't want to hear none of that bullshit because my little $700 plastic box just did what your $6,000 plastic box couldn't do, or your
Yep.
$3,000 box couldn't do. So, yeah, I'm excited.
It's look, the challenge there is it's get into a slightly
Twisted
business.
Sin
I'll
just said.
touch.
Twisted Sin just said thrifty. They released Redfall. Hang on. There's a Twisted Sin with the 5. Let's just call it now. This thing is unoptimized to hell. I can't wait to see how this plays. Dude, 1200 or 120 gigs with those settings. Oh my. I see um I see Jedi Survivor all over again. Like
Hmm,
140 gigs needed a massive ass computer to run it at like the best of the best settings. And when it came out, they tried to just brute force it and it didn't work. And so they had to do patch after patch after patch. And as far as I know, it still has trouble on PC. They got it stable on consoles, but it still has trouble on PC.
yeah.
But anyways, go ahead. I cut you off, Foggy.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's the challenge is they try to brute. There's no nuance in their development in their hardware. Everything is designed to brute force something through. It's just how it is. And when you can't brute force something through, then it just won't work. Because that was your option. Throw more horsepower at it, and if that doesn't drag it out of the bog, well, then it's stuck. Um, just to briefly touch on the businessy side, because I can't help myself. They launched this thing into the medium tier of Game Pass, and if it doesn't move the dial on new subscriptions, not ongoing subscriptions, but new subscriptions, then the only option they've got is to hope to Christ it sells somewhere else.
That's
And
true.
the logical thing there is, well, if we optimize it for PlayStation, we know those suckers will spend money. Maybe we'll be able to get away with it over there. That's the only thing I can logical sense to make. But this is again, this will not be a Uncle Phil decision. This will be a Satcher and further up the chain decision of, oh, it's going, make sure it works, because PlayStation's not going to let a janky piece of shit onto their system because they'll want their 30%. So if it's going on there, it's got to meet the requirements, same as any other publisher that has to go on there.
Uh-huh.
Um, they're not going to suffer having to do with, and everyone knows how great PlayStation's customer service is for PSN.
Good Lord Jesus.
They don't want to. They want to deal with refunds and all that sort of crap. Um, so yeah, I would, we're just briefly touching on how much of an importance it is for Xbox that they are able to sell games on PlayStation.
So,
If they had kept the Call of Duty game that launched recently, Xbox Game Pass day one only, they would have been out of pocket billions of dollars, and it would have killed Xbox, killed it, dead. So they're stuck. They got no choice. They got to make sure it works. And as I was giggling about it before, if they put it out on the Pro, and I remember having this conversation beforehand, a while ago. It might have been with you guys. They'll launch it if it goes on Xbox, and then a couple of months later, they will have had it optimized to go on the Pro. That's why there was that delay when they announced it. And that was before they even announced the Pro. We must have been talking about this back in April, May. It was just after it was announced. What show was it? Summer Games Fest?
maybe?
was. Keeley was on the stage. They made some announcement about it and said, "Oh yeah, and then one more thing, it's coming out on PS5 in sometime in February or March, whenever it was." Um, because I'm pretty sure they didn't do it at the Xbox Live. Well, maybe they did in
I
June
think
at Xbox Live is
no,
when they did
I
it.
think it was
And every
I think it was the Xbox show
yeah, because they talked about it, vividly remember it being on a live
because that
event
was
on
wasn't
stage.
that the big thing is that they let PlayStation have the one more thing at the Xbox
That's right.
show.
That's right. PlayStation had the one more thing at the Xbox show, and the reaction of everyone at the time was, "That's an interesting time difference. There must be. This is effectively confirmation that the Pro is coming out before Christmas,
Mm,
or be that
because
Christmas March period."
we know from the ABK stuff that Xbox Studios do not have access to the prototype hardwares from PlayStation. They just don't.
Hmm,
That's what Jim Ryan was saying that like if they made Call of Duty exclusive and if they purchased Call of Duty, the future iterations wouldn't have access. Activision Blizzard would no longer have access to like
yeah,
tester dev kits almost because it
yeah,
would give away trade secrets.
that's right. And look at how much money that makes as an impact. So straight away, it's not a matter of, well, can Xbox survive if they decide that they want to do a substandard version of PlayStation. PlayStation goes, you can't develop it for us anyway. Go stick it up your rear end. And then Xbox is sitting there going, well, we just destroyed the money making machine of the thing we just purchased.
Well, and it's so bad that it's no coincidence, and I made allusions to this whenever I was a few weeks ago, whenever the news actually happened. But like, it's very it's very interesting that as as PlayStation and the PS5 Pro and all this other stuff started getting circulation, all of a sudden you have Phil Spencer talking about how we want to start this dev program where if you're a developer, we want to talk with you, fill out this survey. We want to know kind of what the pain points are on the Xbox Series X and S. And if you've worked on our competitor stuff, we are most interested to talk to you.
Yes,
Why? Why that little caveat? Well, because they don't have access to the to the the prototype dev kits. They don't have to the tester kits. They don't have it. And so they're like, "Hey, what's coming up? What do we got to be prepared for?
exactly,
What's going on?
exactly.
Like,
And they
let us
couldn't,
know."
they couldn't, they couldn't get that information out of Kojima, which is why that Xbox cloud gaming, very specific exclusive game that he's making for them is all of a sudden gone dark and quiet.
Mm.
Um, and Kojima bought back all his IP, so there's some bits and pieces going on there about getting some value there, because I'm assuming Kojima's not far away from saying I've had enough. Um, but the the NDAs and stuff that PlayStation wraps people in talking to developers about this stuff. I mean, PlayStation will nail your hide to the office wall if you so much as even breathe in the direction of where this thing might be headed. And they are stupidly aggressive about making sure that people keep their mouth shut. But the respect is there. How many people pop their heads up and talk about these very closely guarded secrets that PlayStation has about their hardware?
Mm.
Cerny spoke to 100 and something publishers and development studios and whatnot just to get the idea about what they wanted out of the PS5, and no
Yeah.
one said a word.
No.
No one spoke a word about what they were making, and it was like little snippets here and there. And we obviously, here's the logo, great. We waited over 12 months to find out any more about it, and then they stealth dropped what it looked like anyway, and everyone had a conniption. But it's same with the Pro. People have been seeing what's in the techs and guts inside of that thing, and we've known for a while. It's why we've had this sort of mini drought, if you want to call it, since April, May, June, when the back end of that rush of a game per month happened at the start of this year.
Mm.
July,
Yep.
August, September, pretty quiet in terms of major releases. October, we found out in September when it was coming. I think it was September we found out when it was happening. The Pro was coming at
Yep. And
late
we
in
also had, I
November.
think, wasn't Astrobot September, along with
Yeah,
Black Myth.
Astrobot popped. Yeah, those two popped out in September in the Concorde incident. We'll refer to it that way. The Concorde incident. Um, and then all of a sudden it was like, here's this stuff, Bang Pro's coming out there and watch out. And it was like, oh, this is what the Pro can do. And the
Yeah.
list was just growing and growing and growing and growing. But it was back in June, you wrote that live event, and I'm just reading it now, where they said, one more thing, it's coming out on PS5. 'Cause that wasn't game number four, that was game number five, wasn't it?
Yep.
Because it was the big deal was it's coming to PlayStation,
And
it
then
stole the
don't
thunder,
not
but
to
it was
mention
game number
Forza.
five.
Forza.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then, so it's coming, I think it was March. And good luck, because if that Ghost of Yotai is coming in March, they're going to get cooked. But it was in that time frame, it's like, when you line things up and then seeing what was happening in the financial and the strategies and all that background information, like, right, it's going to happen before Christmas. And I was a bet each way with Detective Seeds on this. I said, I think it's going to be early December because you'd do it after Black Friday because you'd run a massive Black Friday sale to clear out all your old stock and then say, here it is, but you and do it say then. And he was, no, go the other way, do it before Black Friday because then you can launch it and then clear out all the old stock and it'd be done then. And we were like, well, either way, it's happening November, December, and both of us were right to a degree. But it was the thing of being, it's not coming till March, and the only reason you would delay it from December into March for the PS5 build would be it's going to be Pro optimized. That's the whole point I'm getting to with this long spiel is it's PS5 Pro optimized. You can just about bet the house on it. Have they optimized it properly though? As like we were saying before, if it pops up lock 60 with ray tracing, it's done. Xbox might as well just pull the plug on and just go all in on, well,
Now,
bugger it. We'll stop making hardware. We'll have a conversation with PlayStation. We will just go publishing. We won't do hardware, and we'll do a deal to get Xbox Game Pass onto the PlayStation platform. And fuck it, we'll just go that way because that would make them so much more money.
yeah, and it's sorry, I was typing back, and I have a really loud keyboard, and I'm a really heavy typer, so I muted myself
Hey,
real quick.
right.
Steven, you have a good night, man. Okay, going to sleep, drinking, and being older takes its toll. Yeah, I'm glad you showed up. Have a good night, dude. Some other people have been leaving the chat. Thank y'all for stopping by. Really mean that. I think Twisted Sin said he was out. And there was another one that I think I missed that was out. But guys, I really do appreciate y'all stopping by. Um, but no, I having a PS5 Pro optimized, I think you're right. I also one of the key indicators for me has it seems like games that have a large disparity in download size or the download the file size are usually better optimized. Now, what I mean by that is if Indiana Jones is 120 on Xbox, 120 on Series S, 120 on PC, but in 3 months or 4 months it comes over to PlayStation and it's 70 because of cracking compression and they've taken advantage of that. And in other words, if they've gone to that length to like take advantage of the tech that's in the PS5 already,
Yeah.
then I have hope that the game. You're not gonna fix Indiana Jones. It looks like dog shit, but it will be the best version and most polished version of a dog turd you've ever seen.
You polish it and it's still one, but at least it's a polished one.
But at least it looks better. It has ray tracing. You can't help that the combat looks completely stiff and janky as all heck. You can't help that the whip sounds like shit. You can't help that like they chose first person instead of third person. Like there's certain things that you're just not gonna fix it using the pro.
Why? Why would you? This is the thing. It drives me nuts. And Xbox is phenomenally poor at these decisions. They choose to do so much stuff as first person. Why? I don't understand why. Just do it third person. Like, first person is great for certain things. It's not for RPGs. Here's the hint, guys. RPGs don't do first person. Imagine how much better Skyrim would be if it was in third person.
Dude,
Like,
I would
come
have
on.
no life. I wouldn't have gotten married. It just wouldn't have. Like,
And you know. Cyberpunk 2077 borderline. I think they'd earned the right with The Witcher 3 to have a crack at a first person version, and in certain play styles it works, but
Boo.
yeah,
So here's
it's
the
not
thing about that game. That's why it's taken me so long to get into it. I bought it at launch, and it was a piece of shit. I took it back, got a full refund, and never played it since. Well, that's not true. I found it for $5 after all the patches had been done, and started playing it again. I made it to the point where after like you do the first little mission, then you get the car, and then you go, and literally the first person aspect bothered the absolute shit out of me so bad. I was like, man, this game is gorgeous. This world is beautiful. I just spent an hour creating my character that now I can't fucking see. Like,
exactly.
this is a problem. I was so frustrated at first person games for doing that. Like, if you're in a first person game, don't even give me a character creator. Just give me some generic ass character, because all I'm going to see are the freaking hands. That's it.
Yeah,
L- Like,
exactly right. And it's there's very limited scenarios in which because I don't like, I'm no good at first person shooters because I'm too slow.
I
But there's
respect that.
limited scenarios in which I actually enjoy first person anyway, because it's more of a can't see around me. I like to see around me, and it irks me that you've got to turn, and when you turn to look, you turn the direction you're running. You're constantly turning and backtracking, and I just don't. It's not a play style that I enjoy. But again, I grew up on JRPGs, so
Right.
I've got predetermined things that I enjoy because it's what I grew up with. There's people that all they've ever played is COD, so they love first person shooters, and they do not like playing third person. It's not a matter of whether you should even give them an option or not, like they did with GTA 5, where you could play the whole game first person if you wanted to. But why would you? Like,
Right.
anyway,
That's
um,
that's my and this
that's a
isn't right.
philosophical
This isn't to
argument for
shit
another
on
time.
first
But
person games. Like there are
no,
some that I've really enjoyed, but by
yeah,
and large, I find that when you have a developer making an RPG,
yeah,
ARPG, JRPG, anything that has R, P, and G attached to it anywhere, anything that I get to
exactly.
customize my armor, I get to make myself look a certain way. I get to God, I used to. Okay, so one of the things I actually rate certain games on is if when you're playing it and you pick up a new weapon and that weapon actually translates into like a different thing that you're carrying. Like JRPGs sometimes were really bad about this back in the day where like your sword was just your sword. And it didn't
Yeah,
look different, it didn't change. It was just your sword. And so that was it. You could have not JRPGs, I'm sorry, action RPGs were like this back in the day where like no matter what upgrades you had, your shit looked the same. And I used to
right,
like harshly judge games that didn't put that in, and I'd get so excited when you had games that did. Like, oh, the that's one of the things I absolutely love about like Final Fantasy games is even early on when you get a new weapon, it actually changes. Like, it has its own artwork. It has its own addition to the sprite that you are. Like, it's really, really cool the level of detail, and I appreciate that.
mm,
But when you give me that detail in a first person game, and then I don't get to see that detail, I have a fucking problem with you. Like,
yeah. I
why
mean,
did I waste all
think of
that
it.
time?
So, and there'll be a lot of people who have never, they don't know Indiana Jones because it's old, right? It's way back then.
Sure, and the latest movie was a flop. Go ahead.
The latest ones are garbage. So don't even talk to me about that. That's an abomination. Never should happen. But the first ones, right? So you got Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and the
Empire Strikes Back? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
the Empire Strikes Back, where they thaw him out.
Yeah.
Oh, but imagine Harrison Ford in the '80s. He was in the two biggest movie franchises in effectively history, and he played the lead role in one and supporting role in the other.
Uh,
Um, what's the third one?
oh,
Where they
there's
go and find the cup of Christ. What's the third one called? The Last
Uh,
Crusade. Sorry. So there's those three: the
Raiders of
Raiders
the
of the
Lost
Lost Ark,
Ark,
Temple of Doom,
Doom, and
Last
the
Crusade.
yes.
Yeah. In those three, the most iconic things about Indiana Jones are his hat and his whip.
Yep.
And if you're in first person, you can't see either of those things. What's the point? You might as well have just made Uncharted first person. It's
Which
and
hint? There's a
it's a new
reason
storyline.
PlayStation didn't do that. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. If I was going to pick a bone about Uncharted, and it's a rip off of Indiana Jones doesn't hang from the side of a fucking mountain or a building for 3 hours while you traverse it. Anyway, that's they talk about walking sims. Two of the Uncharted games are jump and climb sims. Um, spend so much time. Anyway,
Uh,
different rant for a different day.
hey, now, wait a second.
I
Uncharted,
just
uh,
Uncharted.
Uncharted 3 and Uncharted 4 are amazing.
They are Uncharted
Uncharted,
2. You spend
go ahead.
Uncharted 2. You spend half the freaking game hanging off the side of a hill or off the side of a building, going shuffle across here. Now jump. Now shuffle across here. Now jump.
Well, now,
Fuck.
if we're honest though, if anybody wants to be honest, go back and play some of those old God of War games.
Oh
You would
yes.
have you would have a little tiny area where you fought a few little normal
Yep.
mobs. You would have a big boss fight, but everything in between was finding a chest, completing a puzzle, climbing on a wall, using your chaos blades to climb and latch onto the
Yep.
ceiling. Now, they spiced it up a bit. There were some times where you'd have things that were chasing you, where you had to like
Mm.
fight them off, but like a lot of the times you were just climbing shit. And
Yeah.
so like
The that that game, the first God of War, was like the original QTE game. Like
right.
you'd be in the middle of a massive boss fight. Instead of doing the normal, just keep throwing swords at it until its health bar disappears. It was bash the circle button. Now bash the triangle button. Now we go over here. Now bash the X button. Press circle to dodge that attack. It was a yeah. Anyway, but you're right. It would be you'd get into a little room, you'd kill everything, and then you'd open all the chests, and you spend 20 minutes trying to figure out this puzzle to go to the next room, and then
Yep.
you'd kill everything and go again. Oh, games when they were fun.
It's well, funny enough, it's why I think I enjoy 2018 and Ragnarok.
Mm,
And I know the chat's gonna hate me for this, but I enjoy them better than the older ones.
I
It
do too.
it could be because the character of Kratos, seeing him as a dad who doesn't know what the hell he's doing, like putting myself in the position of what would happen to me if like my wife had was gone, and I'm with the kids now. So what what do I
Yeah,
do? You're not here to help me. Like I don't
it
like.
really invokes a protective nature.
Yeah.
Um, like trust me, there's times in that God of War because I haven't played Ragnarok yet, and I've got a backlog that's a mile long. Um, in the first game, like at the start, you run. Spoiler alert! At the start, you go through the emotional things about the wife and laying to rest, and the pyre and all the rest of it, and the handprint on the tree and all that.
Hmm.
And then you take Atreus out hunting, and then the little shit runs off into the
Mm-hmm.
fog, and he's calling out for help, and then you're telling him to stop, and the little bastard keeps going. When you catch up to him, the first thing I wanted to do was pull out the blades of chaos and whip the shit out of him. I was you just and the whole game when he doesn't listen, he backchats, and there's times when I've just sat there looking at him and just hammering the button, going, just please, just let me throw this freaking axe in the back of his head just once. Now I don't condone violence against kids, and that is a brilliantly written script because it's
Guys, here at the
invoking an emotion out
playground,
of me.
these are his
But
views and not mine. They are not representative of the views of this channel or of Thrifty himself. Go ahead. Just
surely you've had times when playing that game has done the same thing. You're like, I just wish this little shit had shut up to go away, or it just listen to what I'm telling him because it just annoyed the shit
because
out
like
of me.
so what's interesting is the dad advice that he gives in there, I've
Mm,
actually given to my children. Like we have a thing in our house where like if our kids do something and their immediate response is I'm sorry, I automatically look at them and go, don't be sorry, be better. Like
yes, I do the same thing.
that came from Kratos in God of War 2018. Like
Yep.
that that whole like that's damn near a life motto for me, and I'm not even kidding. Like I I don't want to be sorry for who I am as a person. I just want to be better.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Like
Learn from your mistakes. Learn
learn
from your
from my
mistake.
mistakes.
Mistake is a
In
learning opportunity.
right, admit when you make them. Don't get defensive. Like people have literally called me out in the chat and gone, "Thrifty, you're totally wrong. Here's what actually happened." And I've looked at it, found their source, and gone, "Oh shit, you know what? I'm wrong." Like that that's okay, but that principle is taught through the anyways. Back to the games. Like I literally resonated with those games a whole lot more.
Hmm.
And I don't even know how the hell we got on this tangent, but like, oh, Indiana Jones.
We were talking about Indiana Jones and how it should be third person, not first person,
Yes,
because of
if
the ray
God of
tracing and
War
all the rest of it.
Ragnarok was first person, holy
No.
crap, the scenes wouldn't hit as hard, the emotional beats don't hit as hard, because at the end of the day, most of us, especially those on PlayStation, really like having a great story told to us while we get to play a game within that story.
That's right.
Like,
And
yeah,
that's the PlayStation blueprint. Everyone loves to talk about. Although all they ever do is one and done games. Like their blueprint is phenomenally brilliant because they tell stories,
they
and
tell
you get to be
stories.
involved in the story, and that evoke emotion, and they touch. They say they touch people. They don't reach out and slap you or do anything inappropriate.
No,
Each to
but
their own. But
why am I upset?
they
Why am I upset that I'm not getting an Uncharted 5? Well, I'm upset
mm,
because at the end of Uncharted 4, when the daughter finds all of oh shit. Um, yeah. So at the end of it, there's a big thing that happens at the end of Uncharted 4 that leaves like this massive ass cliffhanger, and
yeah.
like all I'm screaming is, please, for the love of God, give me an Uncharted 5, make it the daughter, put Nathan Drake in trouble for once, where the daughter has to do something to save the dad. That would be freaking awesome. And write it in such a way where she's not just this amazing girl boss, doesn't need anybody in her like write it like they write like the Crystal Dynamics wrote Tomb Raider, the reboot that happened. Write her like that, just super smart, super intelligent, really equipped to do all this stuff because of who her dad was. Like they had everything.
And they've got runs on the board and being able to write female character for that in that setting anyway with the Lost
Chloe,
Legacy that they did
yeah,
with Chloe.
Chloe or
Now
Cleo,
you don't
yeah,
you don't have to have like the same characters. You can bring in an entire new character set. You can have reference points. You can have the Easter eggs. You can do the nostalgia thing for those of us who are going to play it blindly anyway. And as long as it's written well and the story is something we can relate to, look, as a father, and I don't have daughters, I only got a son, but as a father, you've got this protective instinct, and the last thing you want is to not be able to protect your kids.
dude.
But it would invoke a completely different set if were in the know or found out that your kids are coming to save you, or that you had to rely on your kids to save you. And being able to play that would just be like it'd be same as when you played Ellie in the
Yes,
Last of Us,
yes.
with that fight with Dave. I I remember doing that scene, and I was just like, I just can't stand this. Is killing me. This is killing me to do this because where the hell is Joel? Just let me be Joel so I can go in here and save her. It's like,
Mm.
and you know, criticize PlayStation all you want. They've got some fantastic storytellers over there, and I hope they never change away from that. Look, to touch on it, slightly tangent, is if anyone in the chat or anyone listening has ever played Concrete Genie, have you played it?
I played it. Yes, failed to launch.
Failed to launch.
I didn't
I
like
got
it.
halfway. I got halfway through it, and the idea of the game is, you've got the Yetis and the paintings on the wall and that, but the undertone is there's this group of bullies running around, and if you run into them, they'll kick the shit out of you and destroy everything.
Correct.
So you're trying to avoid them whilst doing everything else. And for the amount of time I was sort of playing it in between major games at the time, I was like, this is a really sad game. It's making me feel really sad,
Yes,
and
that's why I
that's why I
didn't play
stopped
it.
playing. It's like I'm sick of playing a sad game, but I was like, it's not the paintings, it's not the tasks, it's not these other little things which have got me intrigued as to what's happened here. And I'm Like it's a nice little game, but oh, the undertone is so sad because it's just horrible to think that kids get bullied like this. And being a parent, the last thing you want to do is have to not deal with it, but have to contemplate that at times when you don't really want to, or you don't need to be in that mindset. That's why I stopped playing. I'm like, this is, but again, ridiculously well written game. Just not something that I wanted to put up with. But if Indiana Jones, circle the whole thing back to our point of topic, if the game is well written and the game has got a really good story to it and the game can flow to a degree, people will look past the jankiness and the stiffness of the combat, and they'll look past the shitty graphic outlay, and they will get past the first person thing as long as the camera angles and all the rest of it isn't too difficult to work with. But if the story and the gameplay is garbage and the mechanic is shit and the loop is shit, nothing's going to save this thing, and it should just stay on Game Pass and die a horrible death. Now, I don't wish that upon the developers, but if their leadership can't get them up to the standard that we need them to be at,
Yeah.
you've only got yourselves to blame.
No, you're
And
absolutely
it,
right.
so,
Like,
and I really do hope that they've poured time into optimizing it for PS5 because it might give them the kick in the ass that they need. Talk
so
about PlayStation getting complacent. Look at what's coming out of Xbox. There's no way they're even close to being pushing PlayStation on anything.
no, man, they are a shell of who they used to be. I'm not. The sad part is I don't even like. I'm covering Indiana Jones because I think it's hilarious and more of a PS5 Pro comparison. Because once I saw the super sampling on there and like the ultra requirements, I was like, holy shit. Because we may not get a 60 FPS ray trace mode on the PS5 Pro, but I can almost guarantee you we are going to get a 60 F or a VRR ray tracing 40 FPS mode at 1440p. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that that will happen. I don't know if we'll get 60 with ray tracing, but I can damn near guarantee you that we will get 1440 at 40 FPS with VRR turned on and ray
I
tracing.
was
But
gonna say, but if it is that at 1440p and then the PSSR kicks in, doesn't matter, does it?
that's true because you won't even notice.
Doesn't
Like,
matter. You will
well,
not notice.
here's the other thing, and I didn't cover this tonight because I didn't quite want to get into it. Uh, because I want to see what some of these. I want some more information from the actual studios themselves on what's going on. But
Yep,
there are a handful of games that the PS5 Pro patch has come out and made worse. The problem is
there
those
is.
games weren't that great to begin with, performance wise. So,
Yeah,
like,
and that'll come down to whether they've got the pockets to say, hey, we want to do an upgrade. Can we get some help? Or they're pulling out empty pockets, going, oh, fuck, we're broke. Let's just see how we go. Um,
yeah,
but there's one of those games that you're talking about though, which was a forced upgrade, which you can't wind back if you've got a digital version,
was
and
that
that
Survivor?
is that was some
Yeah.
scummy practice.
Yep.
That was
Like,
some scummy practice.
because even Stellar Blade, when you get on there, it has all the fucking modes, everything. It's
Oh yeah.
everything. There's like 8 different modes on there. Uh,
Did you see?
on
Sorry, just on Stellar Blade. You see the upgrades did such a good job. Old mate got his channel banned because of the pictures he was taking.
Nuh-uh.
He did. He went into photo mode, took a heap of pictures, and got himself banned from one
For
of the social media
what?
platforms. He got reported on PlayStation and nearly lost his PSN account for the pictures he was taking because the
Oh,
detail was so defined.
oh. The detail on Eve was so defined. Got it.
Yeah,
That's really
like
funny.
you photo mode out for that thing. Hey,
Josh Ayers
don't
just
talk to
said
me about PlayStation censoring stuff.
Josh Ayers just said, "Well, PSSR isn't a miracle worker." No shit. And that's what people need to realize. Like, I am so excited to see what comes out of PlayStation Studios and what comes out of like I want to see what or how the PS5 Pro patch works for um, Space Marines 2. That is a game on my Christmas list, and so like I really want to see how it works before I like move it up, because right now it's the Pulse Explorers and a couple other littler things, but like it might get moved up depending on how the pro patch is, because that game is not dropping in price like I hoped, because the game is actually doing well. And so it sucks
Yeah.
that to get a game to drop in price, it has to do bad. Like,
It
that's the shitty part.
used to
Like,
be the other way around. It'd hit its target and then they'd drop it because when it was physical only, it had a 6 month window. And if you didn't hit as soon as you hit your target, you drop the price because you want to clear it all out because they wouldn't make any more.
do
Remember
you?
PlayStation? In the first ones, you had the PlayStation, the Platinum games.
I was gonna say,
When it hit a
do you
certain
remember the
level of
greatest
stuff,
hits?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
they'd get to a certain level and then they drop in price, and it was, I loved it because
oh, it was
it was like
so
guaranteed it was
good.
at that price, and that's all it was. As soon as it hit that platinum level or greatest hits, it was bang, it was that price,
And
and I loved it because it was cheap.
but you
When I
could
say
go
cheap
into
at that
like
age, it was expensive.
you could go into Funko Land or into EB Games at the time, before
Mm,
GameStop kind of bought all of them. You could go into these places and you could actually like next to each other, you would have the non-greatest hits version for like $30, or you could get the greatest hits version for $20. And the
that's right.
only difference was one had a green label, and I'm sorry, this was the I'm talking PS2 now. One had the
Mm,
red label at the top that just said
yep,
PS2 greatest hits. And like
that's right.
it was awesome. It was great because you knew, like you said, that was the price no matter what. It was $20.
That's it.
And
That's right. They because PS1 was the platinums, PS2 was greatest hits, PS3 went back to platinum, I think. PS4 was greatest hits. We haven't found out what PS5 is yet.
no, did PS4 did they
Yeah,
do greatest
it did.
hits?
It did the greatest hit. I'm pretty sure it was greatest hits because I've got a couple of them digitally, which have got the red banner across the top.
Really?
Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they
Oh
did
yeah, they
greatest
did
hits.
because Infamous Second Son is one of them. Yep,
Yep.
yep, that is definitely one of
So
them.
I tell you what, though, it'd be a long time before we see something popping up on PS5 the way the prices are going. But you know, um,
Yeah,
it
so
was just we end up in nostalgia lane so often, don't we? Because we've been doing it for so long. It's just these
we
back
do
then it
really
was
end
so
up
much
always back talking about all the old shit. Like it's just well, and like you said
talking
earlier,
about the yeah.
talking like
Sorry,
you
keep
yeah
going.
no talking about the new shit's depressing. I think is what you were gonna say, but like the
Yes.
all of these older games, like Vampire Survivor. Okay, you mentioned it earlier. That game literally satisfies everything I've ever wanted as a gamer. It has a level up system, has a progression system, has a fair combat mechanic system where
Yep.
as you go through it, like I never feel like the game is too overpowered to make me want to stop playing, but I never feel like I'm too overpowered to where it's boring. Like there's always a challenge. Sometimes when you get the guy who has the big garlic ring and you can bump that up to like level 4 or 5, you can just stand still and just watch the world come to you and burn. That's kind of cool. But like outside of that, it's a pretty engaging game. You're constantly moving, you're constantly doing stuff. There's a legit level up system. There is a way that everything works. First upgrade is another projectile, second upgrade is a damage buff or a cooldown. Third upgrade is another projectile for and like it has a legit system that you can pick out as you're playing. Like it's so good. But I go back to games like a Bad Dudes or a Contra that had those same type of thing. Like you jumped, you ran, and the gun shot for you. Like you didn't hold anything else down. On Contra, on the NES, when you loaded that thing up, you started off by shooting. Your gun was just shooting. It was doing its thing, and you were jumping, you were collecting stuff, and you were killing enemies. You were getting to the bosses, you were finding upgrades, and that was it. And we spent hours playing those. Remember what I said earlier? A game that had 100 hours of gameplay, that was kind of standard for quite some time.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, speaking of, are you just triggered my brain on something else? I don't know. Anyone else here played Ridge Racer Revolution or Ridge Racer and in the original Namco before they became Bandai Namco? They used to stick the like Galactica in the load screen. Press this
Yes,
button, you could play that. Oh man,
Yes.
that was so much fun. I would forget the damn thing was loading. I get tired of playing those. But same deal. It's just simple, like Empire Survivors. It's a simple game. It's got a good loop. It's good fun, and that's touching back on why I'm enjoying Dave the Diver and why I played Dredge and I enjoyed that game. They're not long 100, 120, 150, 200, 500,000 hour games that you just got to keep sinking time into to get something out of them. They've got these cool little 10, 15, 20, 30-minute max gameplay loops where you're constantly progressing. It's got simple upgrades. They're very easy to achieve. Um, Game's done in 20 hours. Like if you put 20 hours into it, you've explored everything and had a good time. And there's got enough intrigue there to keep you interested. They had enough there to keep my imagination interested, but it just right for I was sitting down, I got half an hour, I get to myself, do some gaming, and just chuck it on and play it. 20 minutes, half an hour, and I get the satisfaction out of it. It's unlike, if I had plenty of time to sink into the JRPGs that I like, or the Japanese action RPGs that I love playing, or the PlayStation games, you need a good solid 2 hours to get any kind of progression going. And
Correct.
God help, God help you in every way, shape, and form that He can if you've got to do fetch quests.
Because there's your 2 hours.
That two
That's.
hours is gone. But, and I'd say that oddly, Dave the Diver is effectively two fetch quests and then run the sushi restaurant. But it's all about inventory management while you progress in the story and you got little things you got to achieve. But it's 10 minutes. If I need to go and get stuff to run the restaurant or go and do this little thing, I can just stream, bang, go on, done, finish 10 minutes, we're out of the water and off to the next part of the story. Or I can muck around for an hour just checking out every little nook and cranny and picking up all this stuff and just having a good bit of fun.
Hmm.
Um, but that's the freedom within the game. But it's not a technical masterpiece. It's not a graphical masterpiece. It can probably run it on a toaster if you wanted to, but it's just like you were saying before, these cool little things that just satisfy the itch. And there's just a little bit of quirkiness about them. But yeah, so you were just
Well,
saying before about Vampire Survivors, like, oh, I remember these things used to be in the front of the Namco games. It's like Contra. Again, it's showing our age. I say our age. Arcades used to go and put. I don't know if you guys used to put nickels or whatever it was in over there, but we, 10, 20 cents over here, 50 cents. It was outrage when it went to $1 a game because it's like, "Oh, that's ridiculously expensive."
that's
But
when I stopped playing at the arcade.
yeah, same. But you just go to the arcade and Tekken or Street Fighter 2 or the Ninja Turtles, Cowabunga, and just you had a joystick and six buttons, and that was it. And if you yeah, that was if it had six buttons, it was, holy shit, this is an awesome game. Usually it was a joystick and two buttons,
Yeah, and
and the joystick only went up, down, left, right, and that was it.
yep, and to be clear, Eddie in Tekken 3 or Who Wrong in Tekken 3 only required the stick and two buttons.
That's right. That's right.
And,
You could kick anyone's ass with a
yep,
stick and two buttons.
because
And
Eddie did the flips and would keep the other player in the air the whole time just from two button combo,
yeah,
and then Who Wrong would you could change stance with those two buttons and go from a 5 hit combo into another 5 hit combo that left the person spinning, and like, oh my god, those games were
and
absolutely amazing.
if you got good at it, and this is the original version of Pass the Controller, where it went from arcade to home living room.
Mm.
But before you had split screen multiplayers and all that sort of stuff, it was if you were good enough and you got there at the early enough time, you could spend the afternoon in the arcade at one of these games just versing whoever showed up, and whoever the challenger was paying for the game.
Yep.
So you might only have to pay for one game, and you'd spend hours just kicking people's ass. But if they beat you, that was their reward. The next challenger's paying. The challenger pays. The challenger
Yep.
pays. And you remember the Tekken 2 and Tekken 3 on the original PlayStation? It was insert coin. It was still flashing on the screen. Insert coin. Press start.
So we
Oh,
used to go to Aladdin's Palace in the mall, and it was 50 cents a game, and it was just like what you said. There was always a line by Tekken 3, and there was also a line by Marvel vs. Capcom, but I
oh yeah.
sucked at Marvel vs. Capcom, so I couldn't do it. But Tekken with the glitch of Eddie and the glitch of Who Wrong, I could absolutely do it. The only one I couldn't beat was if anybody picked the skeleton tree forest dude.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
because he had a special where he like did like a spinning backhand, I believe, that just
Yes.
you were just screwed. Like the spinning backhand would just keep hitting you. And then Jax, if you got trapped in his uh the low little like leg kick thing that he did, uh
Mm,
where he would like do like the Russian leg kick on you, uh that would end up kind of locking you a bit. But like most of the time, you could get out of everything you needed to with Eddie or Who Wrong. So you would
yep.
show up to the as the challenger, so to speak. You would put 50 cents on the top of the arcade system in between the player one and player two, and then you would put your 50 cents in to play.
Yep.
So the way that worked is you were paying for your game to challenge, and the winner got the 50 cents. So you paid for whoever won, they got their game back. And
Yep.
you just kept doing that. Like, there
Okay.
was one day only, that I was able to buy my lunch at the mall because my brother and I were up there for so damn long, and I had whooped so many people's ass.
Hmm.
And, like, that was my. I loved that game. When you beat it on the console, you got a little freaking dinosaur that you could fight with. You got a beach ball mode.
Yep.
It had
That's
a.
right.
Oh, it was
Had
so
gone
good.
gone was some kid's character thing that was in there.
Yeah, the dino.
That yeah, and
Yeah.
one of his moves was I don't know if it was in the arcade version we had here. It might have been in the
I don't
Japan one,
think the
but
dino was in
it
the
was in the
arcade.
game. It might have just been in the console game. You could one of the moves you could do. You had a button input, and he'd run up to them, turn around, and fart, and they'd fall over.
Yes.
And like just the silliness of Japanese stuff was like that. Because as soon as they fell over, you start swishing your tail and just kick the shit out of them, or you know,
Uh,
the quirky little things with that character. But yeah, um,
so he was not Gon was his name, Gon the dinosaur,
yep.
and he was available in the arcade version, but not actually in the arcade. If that
Oh
makes
right,
sense. So like it was the
yes,
arcade version on the consoles. He was
yes, that's
available
right.
in that, but he was not available at the actual physical arcade.
Yeah, yeah, that's
That's
right. It was one
crazy
of
that I
those.
remember that. That game, honestly, it like
Yeah.
it was because I went from Street Fighter to the one with Cinder. Um, oh crud, it was a
Ugh.
Sega game. Um, shoot, Killer Instinct.
No, Killer
Um,
Instinct. Yeah, that's right.
and then I went from Killer Instinct to Tekken 3, and I only went to Tekken 3 because I had played it at the arcades. And when I
Mm,
got my PlayStation, I saw that it was on PlayStation. I was like, oh, I'm that's mine. I needed
yep.
that. And so like I didn't own a lot of games, so I would rent them, and on the weekends, me and my buddies would all play them. But like, man, all these, and this is the problem. This is the challenge right now. The stuff that Falky and I are talking about, the nostalgia, the stuff that the chat is bringing up. This is the
Mm,
stuff that new developers or these big AAA developers are having to fight against because
yeah.
there's indie devs who are making the games that all of us remember that we love, and
Yeah.
they're making the Sea of Stars. They're making the Chained Echoes. They're Chained
Oh.
Echoes was made by one dude.
Yeah.
One dude made that game, and he got help from a really awesome musical composer. Like, but outside
Yeah.
of those three songs, everything else was Matthias Linda.
Yep.
Like, freaking insane. That game is
Yeah.
so good.
And it touches into another challenge that they've got. You know, I've spoken about this briefly, and I'll just make it mention, but we won't go into because we'll be here for 3 days talking about it. If you got one person making a game like Unchained Echoes, and they just get the composer in to help with that, and that game sells 100,000 copies. That's massive. That's not a failure. That's 100,000 copies that he's now getting his bit back, and he's got something out there that he can put his flag on and say, "I did that," and the composer's got paid. And that's great. That's sustainable. And the challenge is that it then means that if that's sustainable and the introduction of AI means that that can be accelerated, then there's more games available. So we'll end up with an oversaturated market, and we're already in a saturated market. And that's worse for the big guys because now they've got to work even harder to compete to be able to sell it and compete for those games and that money. If you can buy five different Chain Echoes games for like $20 a game or $30 a game, whatever it works out to be, or you can get one of the big PlayStation games for $70 a game, or one of the big Xbox games for $70 a game, people start looking at value like, well, I can get three or four 20, 25-hour games, and they all sort of appeal to me in a bit better manner. Uh, or I can just get one of these big ones. Well, I'm not going to get the big one now. I'll wait till it goes on sale. And then, like you said before, if it sells enough, if it doesn't sell enough, it'll go on sale. So it's a counterproductive for the big guys. And then they've got even more of a challenge. So then they're saying, well, we're not selling as many, so we've got to crank the price up. Or we've got to start laying people off, and we're going to use AI to backfill a heap of these technical roles that we for the grunt work that we don't need people to do anymore. If it's costing you $250,000 per person you've got working on a AAA game, and you can get AI to do it, replace 100 people for the cost of one person, ongoing for that 12 months, that's a massive saving. And that's where I think AI can have big impacts in that respect. Now that means that people are getting laid off. Well, at the moment, people are getting laid off anyway because that's just the,
God.
the, the contraction point in the market. But if you're one person who struggles a bit with getting this coding stuff done, but you're really good at story writing, and you can find somebody else who's really good at supervising the coding work, and you get another person who's really good at the music or something, all of a sudden 4 or 5 people can get together and build a game on their weekends in a couple of years, and all they've put in is their own time. If it sells 150, 200,000 copies because they've got it out on PlayStation and PlayStation chipped in and said, well, we like this, but we'll give you a little bit of, a weekend's worth of, not weekend, a week's worth of fine tuning to get it up to spec. And you get PlayStation to publish it for you, and you sign off 100% of the publishing rights, and you get 80% of those sales back. Fuck, that's a sustainable business that you can do for the next decade. The amount of people that just make um, Minecraft add-on packs or Roblox add-on packs, and they sell them for
Mm.
4.99 or 7.99. It, there's a team of 5 guys that quit working for Ubisoft to go and make those Minecraft packs because they're programmers. They just do it in their sleep. They're doing 7 or 8 a week,
Yeah.
and just bang, they're selling hundreds of thousands of them.
You
And
want to
they're
know something
simple little
funny?
skin things.
My son is all over himself right now. So he has a Switch. He plays Minecraft a lot. I mean, a
Mm,
lot. But his attitude is shit when he plays Minecraft a lot. So
yes.
he's been away from Minecraft for like 2 weeks. Well, it sucks for him because they just released a pretty massive update, like Minecraft Garden something or another. And like it's a free update. He's going to be able to get it, download it, but he can't right now. But all I have heard is how awesome it is and how all this other stuff. Oh, and there was another update that was like this realism patch. And I was like, "Oh, maybe they're going to like round off everything and like really like give it a fresh coat of paint." He loads it up on his Switch and is like, "Oh my god, they've done so much to it. They've done so much." And I was like, "Dude, let me see. Let me see what they did." And I look at him like, bro, they didn't do shit. I was like, dude, they didn't do anything. I can't tell the difference. He goes, Dad, you're really just not looking. I was like, no, no, no. I literally can't tell the difference. And so like he literally had to
Yeah.
pull up. It felt like I was talking to an Xbot. Really, he had to pull up side by sides on YouTube to show me the
Yeah.
differences. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. But like those things in that freaking game are so rudimentary that it
Mm,
can't cost but a couple dollars to, in corporate speak, a couple dollars to make those and to send them out. And like the player base goes absolutely bananas. It can be free, it can be paid for, it can be whatever. Nobody cares.
yeah.
They're going to get it regardless. It's
No, that's right.
insane.
Now, that Microsoft bought an absolute gem when they got hold of that studio and that shop for doing those add-ons, right? They sell so many of the fucking things.
Every
The
week
where
I get asked.
they could they and I spoke about this at I get pestered every day for, Dad, can I have this? Can I have this one? And he'll just get on there and scroll through, and it looks half decent. Can I have that one? And it got to the point where I'm saying to my son, click on the more button because he does it on PC. Scroll down there. What's in this pack? Oh, you get one skin.
Hmm.
Where's the value? So now he goes and looks at something that's got more than five things in it because he's worked out if it's less than $1 per item, Dad will likely say yes. And now I'm
Smart
going to have to
kid.
weasel it down a bit more. But he figured it out. But it's some of these things are like you get this mod pack, it does this, it does that, or this is comes with a world and all this other stuff. He had one that was enchanted furniture or something like that. Well, why would you want that? And he goes, sort of build a house and fill it full of this furniture, and then the furniture will turn evil, and then me and my friends can
Yep.
basically build our own story and play our own story. I'm like, my son's really creative in that respect. He's not great with the maths and the science, but he's really good with the telling stories and creating stories and all that.
Yeah.
Like, great. I'll encourage that. I'll support this in any way or shape I can because he's going to end up doing something, and that's a huge amount of career opportunities for him. But just the amount of money that it's like 2.99, 3.99, and it's 500,000 downloads. I'm like, buggers made a couple of $1 million out of this. Microsoft missed they kicked their biggest own goal, or I should say, they missed their biggest opportunity to absolutely smash home when they released Starfield, empty as shit, and didn't put a mods pack thing like they had out of Minecraft in it. They could have lifted it straight across. Here's the storefront. Modders can have free access to do whatever the hell you like. Here's the conditions you got to meet. Here's the storefront for selling it. We're going to take 30% of whatever you sell. Off to the races. Can you imagine what the modern community could have done with Starfield? And they didn't.
Let me give you one a
Like,
little
come
better.
on.
Let me give you one a little better than the modding community. What if, hear me out, it's a crazy idea.
Hold my
What
beer.
if,
Hold my beer.
what if the game came out feature complete at launch? I, I know it's a weird concept, but I'll be dang if it can't work. It's worked in the
Uh,
past. It continues like that. I am okay with things like Minecraft, Roblox, having a community creator on there. Those are it's almost a multiplayer online style. It's a life game is what
yeah.
it is. It is a sandbox life game. And so I don't know quite what category to fit it into because it's
Hmm.
not a PvP, it's not really a PvE. You can play
It's
solo
like
v
this.
like
It's like The Sims. Remember The Sims when
yeah,
it first
yeah,
popped out? Not Sims 4 and all this carry on. It's just like the original Sims games when they first popped up. The only difference is this: you can actually fight. It's like
yeah.
it's what do they call it?
It's just a
What was
simulator. It's
like
a
Age of Empires or that sort of city building, um, resource management, inventory management. I forget what that type of game's called now. I've played so few of them, but yeah, it's like the original Sims used to be. Set the whole thing up and watch it go, and then Minecraft is basically let's do that in block art, but you can fight things.
and it's the
Um,
funny enough, it's the block art that gets me because I can't do it.
yeah,
It drives me nuts. I,
it's
I
like an over-exaggerated pixel art stuff,
yes.
and and the kids love it. But talking about it, does PS5 Pro have the full ray tracing at 60 FPS for Minecraft? Because they told us it was coming for Xbox, and I haven't seen it. Where is it? Come
So,
on,
and
let's hear it. Sorry,
we talked about this a bit
facetious.
last week. And guys, we got like 7 minutes left. Holy crap, Falky! I just saw your message
I'm
about
sorry. I'm
about an
really
hour
sorry.
ago. No, no, no. I just saw your message an hour ago where you said, "Hey, surprise! You have me for about an hour tonight." Yeah.
Yeah, that meeting got
Um,
cancelled.
that means I don't even want to know. I don't want to know if you canceled it or if they canceled it, but
Oh
somebody
no, no,
canceled it.
it others cancelled it because other things are going on. But yeah, I've just been talking and working away in the background as I do. But yeah, I just enjoy the chat. So I'm just
That's
happy. I'll
funny.
keep going until you kick me out. I'm sorry.
But like, well, we are kicking everybody out in about 7 minutes. But uh, so we're talking about all of this stuff, and we're talking about the what PlayStation's been doing and what the games industry's been doing, and how a lot of the like hearing the devs at PoE consider themselves a double A studio is wildly baffling to me
Okay.
because of the quality that that game looks like it's going to achieve does not look double A. it doesn't look indie. To hear somebody tell me that Shift Up is an indie dev, before I played Stellar Blade, I would believe you. After I play Stellar Blade, I look at you and go, wait, what, really? No, this is on
No.
par with everything else I've gotten from PlayStation.
Yeah. Put the crack pipe down.
Like,
Yeah.
but but in the industry, they're considered small studios. They're
Yeah.
considered double A studios. Like, there's a game that I've been following, and I'm sure everybody on X is getting annoyed with me posting it. I know they have to be, but like, it's Exodus, and it's made
Mm.
by Archetype Entertainment. It has the original devs behind, or some of the original devs behind Mass Effect, Mass Effect 2, Dragon Age, Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age Inquisition, has a lot of the storytellers from BioWare in there. Also combined with the storytellers from Magic the Gathering and things like that because of Wizards of the Coast input and stuff like that. So I'm already sold. And it has Matthew McConaughey in it as well, as the lead character. So I'm doubly sold now. Also, it's a third person action adventure RPG. Sign me up. Oh, and there's
Yeah.
time travel. You go to other planets. And the way they're presenting this, though, it is like every single person is completely 100% bought in. And
Mm.
I was listening to one of their little quick little developer interviews today. They just went into this lady's room and asked her a few questions. All they did was said, "Hey, so why are you in here?" They weren't actually expecting her to be in there, from what I understand. But
Mm.
she was in there doing quick mocap for some of the gun animations. And she said that she
Yeah.
was like, I'm in here trying to get the gun animations right because I kind of didn't like the way they looked. And they asked her, says, okay, so cool. It was like, what's your favorite movie series or what's your favorite movie? And she was like, oh, I love the Lord of the Rings series. And I'm like, okay, we we have a dev that actually cares about story. Cool.
Mm.
Now, she did work in animation, so understand that she might not have influence on the story. But then they asked her another thing, and every single question they asked her, I kept getting more and more freaking excited about this game. And they've done other interviews, they've done other stuff, they've talked about it. There's going to be, like I said, there's time travel, there's like what you do in one area is going to affect another one because of the time stream and all that. Like, so they have some really cool stuff going on, and I have not seen a single bit of footage. I have not seen a single bit of gameplay, and I am stoked about the game because it's already ticked so many of the boxes that I have.
Mm.
But it's made from a startup. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be a AAA game made from a studio that's not owned by anybody except themselves.
That's right. That's right. And that's the I spoke about this years ago. 2019, 2020, I think I was talking about it when the PS5 was and the Xbox Series X and that was coming through and they have this massive consolidation thing. And I said one of the two things will come out of the back end of this when they were showing UE5 and all that sort of stuff. So two things will happen with this consolidation and where things are going. One of those two things is with the mass consolidations, you'll find that there'll be a heap of people that are suddenly unemployed because it happens. They will want to continue in one way or another. And they've got all these offshoots because there's plenty of money being thrown around. Instead of being able to buy big studios, they'll just get funding for startups. You've got experienced people coming out of these major studios that they can do startups. And the second thing is all these tools to make development faster. This is before AI was even a hot topic. It was UE5's got all this plug and play stuff, and we saw Lumen in the land of Anite or whatever it was. That demo that we were like, if that's a game, we want it, and it wasn't. It was just a tech demo, and it looks horrible now, even though it was only 4 years ago. Um, but that's the sort of stuff that's available. And I vividly remember conversations with people saying, watch out, because startups and AA will suddenly be the go-to point. Because they will be able to produce things that are good enough for what we want with the magic and the special sauce in it that gamers want at a price point we are prepared to pay for, but they're not overloaded with this corporate overhead and all this other crap that we've been talking. Like this all ties in. Like, the whole conversation
The
I've
whole
had
thing.
tonight all ties in.
Like, and I think that's why it's
They
been
will,
so organic tonight is because
yeah,
everything kind of relates to each other.
yeah, it does, and it all ties back to the point. AAA will get to a point of unsustainability because of the stupid costs and regulations on it. They will either modify what they do by carving out costs, which they're doing. They will still exist because there will still be a market for it. They will just, it's slow to shift, but they will shift. Double A and indie, especially with publishers like Focus and Devolver and what's the other one? I think
Uh,
of the other one now. There's Devolver, Focus, Home Entertainment, and there's a couple of other um, mid-level publishers. They don't
the
do
only one
big
I can
stuff,
think of
but you've
is
seen it.
Focus, because anything they put their name on, I at least pay attention to.
Yeah, the publishing houses. So they're good to go. They just indies go through them and they have good deals. They're mid-level. PlayStation's getting into that because they've figured out we don't build the game ourselves. We don't own the studio ourselves. We fund it, like I said before, partnership agreements, but part of that agreement is we get the publishing rights. So you've seen PlayStation publishing Helldivers 2, 100% publishing. You've seen Square changing up with some of their games getting delisted and relisted because they've taken over the publishing for those games rather than it being someone else doing the publishing. They're all starting to maneuver into this point of how do we get maximum out of it and reduce the amount of hands touching this. Where that comes back into this, the small startup studios in the AA space are now producing things that are at a peak quality and they're way above their weight. Look at the Stray, um, Sifu, Cannon Bridge of Spirits, even though the camera in that can go and jump in the bin. Like they've got a high quality of finish on them. They look really good. But the
Yeah.
gameplay is an indie gameplay, so it's got that magic, it's got that care. As you were saying before, there's people in there putting in the extra who just loves different bits and pieces. Saw a video the other day of someone doing the mocap for the new Monster Hunter game that's coming out. They just had this massive oversized sword and they made it purposefully oversized so that while he's swinging this thing around, it actually the actor was actually moving, having to make these exaggerated movements and falling over and all that, and just translating it in real time onto the screen. They were using technology which took it from mocap to in-game live immediately,
Oh,
not
that's
having to go
crazy.
through 6 months worth of back-end production work. Um, like this is the sort of stuff that just means small teams can just go for it, and it's immediate, and it just reduces the cost. So the AA guys, they can either make it far cheaper to what would be considered the old AA standard from 5 years ago, or they can use the same amount of money and have such a much better reach and compete at the top end, like with Shift Up. That thing did not cost them anywhere near as much as if Sony had started that from scratch.
Oh, bro, you're
Sony
you're not
Sony
wrong.
doesn't have the risk. Sony doesn't have to worry about it paying back the overhead. Sony gets their cut because of that arrangement. Shift Up gets massive amount of increase in technology advancement and the ability to produce more high polished games, but that doesn't cost them a heap of money because it's money invested in their people to upskill them.
Not to mention the
Yeah.
public facing aspect of it too. Like they
Oh,
partnered with Sony.
yeah.
I had no idea who the hell Shift Up was, and neither did the rest of the gaming console world. Just if anybody's like, "No, man, I've been watching Shift Up for years with their mobile stuff." Shut up. No, you haven't. Like if you're
No,
just
they're full of shit.
like
They're
nobody
full of shit.
knew who the heck they were until
Yep.
Stellar Blade, Project
Yep.
Eve, and we're like, "Oh, that's cool." And then we find out, "Oh, no, it's exclusive to PlayStation." And then the eyes are all on Shift Up. The entire industry looks to them, at least for a minute,
Mm.
and gets them out
Oh, absolutely.
in the public facing section. And what's really interesting, so there's a game coming out, something Nikki, uh, and Infinity Nikki or something like that. Anyways,
Yep.
apparently
Infinity Nikki, that thing's gonna do numbers,
but
man. They had
I thought
30 over
that
30 million
was
pre-registrations.
done by Shift Up because Shift Up's mobile game is a Nikki game. But
I
apparently
was
it's
done
not.
under license, wasn't it?
I guess I don't know anything about the Nikki series. That's what was confusing me the other day in the Discord.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, no. It's a Nikki is the series like it's the like Near. You got Near Autonoma, Near Reincarnate, Near whatever it is. So Near is the underlying series. Um, this
right,
one
but
is
all aren't
Infinity
all the
Nikki's
Nier
the
games made
fifth
by
one in it.
Platinum?
Yeah. Not all of them. There's a couple of the old Drakengard ones that weren't made by
Oh,
Platinum.
that's true. You're right. You're right. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I
Um,
didn't know that, so I was like, dang! Not only did Shift Up have this big success, now they're bringing. I thought it was a. This is how much I haven't followed the game. I thought it was a port of their mobile game coming over
oh,
because
yep.
of the massive success that they had had with Stellar Blade. I was like, well, hell, Sony's just gonna go ahead and, hey guys, yeah, y'all can bring that over to our platform now. Let's do it. And so,
Mm,
but I was wrong in that. But even even in being wrong in that, the fact that the gaming world knew that they partnered with Sony, it
yeah,
automatically spikes up their stock. It automatically puts more worth into their studio, and the PR that they get from that is absolutely like we've heard as soon as Sony works with somebody second party and the game comes out and it's a success, what's the first thing people say? Sony's going to acquire them. Sony was supposed to acquire Ember Labs. Sony was
mm,
supposed to acquire Annapurna. Sony was supposed to, or not Annapurna. Was it Aniplex? Whoever made Stray. Uh,
oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Sony was supposed to acquire them. Sony was supposed to acquire Arrowhead, and then Stellar Blade came out, and it was, oh man, Sony's going to acquire them. We've seen what that does to the market
mm,
when it starts speculating that Sony is about to acquire a developer. We've we've seen it recently. I can't think of the developer's name now, but we've seen it. It's the one that
Stray.
no,
Sorry,
not FromSoft. The company. It wasn't a developer. It was a whole media. Katakawa. Uh,
oh yeah, Katakawa, yeah, that thing.
we saw the just hey, they're kind of sort of interested and made us an offer. Nothing's finalized, and their stock shoots all the way through the roof. Sparks an investigation. Like it's because when you work with somebody like Sony, when Sony puts their name on you, the rest of the media and the rest of the entertainment sector looks at you and goes, "Oh, hey, we should probably be paying attention to these people."
Yeah.
But anyways, that's enough ball washing for Sony. I feel like this has been a good game or a good game. I feel like this has been a good show tonight because it hasn't all been just PlayStation versus Xbox. A lot of this tonight was just gaming in general, and
I, these are the conversations I love having. Don't get me wrong, I love talking business, but usually it's crucifying someone or praising someone, and then you get the whole caps, you're a pony, you're an expot, and whatever it is.
oh sure,
I really appreciate these conversations because I get to talk about games and the love of games, and like, it's just been such an organic chat tonight. There's two Before you wrap it up, there are two things that I would like to just quickly touch on to finish off what we were just talking about. You said Chained Echoes is one person did that game, and it's
yes,
a masterpiece. Another one to keep an eye out for that I came across recently is a game called Ashes of Creation. It's currently about to go into a second alpha test. They've crowdfunded this thing. The studio's grown to be 200 people. It's a
Jesus,
PC-based PC-based MMORPG, and it's its quirk is it doesn't have fast travel. You've got to work out your resources and do a D&D style campaign to go from your where you are to whatever dungeon, clear the dungeon and come back. And there's potential hazards on the way over and the way back. It's not like let's just fast travel there, get into it and hack and slash or whatever. You got to plan it, resource manage it. It's you can have two people, one people, 10 people. It's kind of the way it's been explained is it's like World of Warcraft um, it meets Dungeons and Dragons with a few other parts to it. But because it's an MMORPG online, you can just team up with anyone at any time, and you can get involved in people's battles halfway through it, and all this sort of cool stuff. They started as 7 people in 2015. They are doing it in Unreal Engine 5. They've got Bear McCreary on as their composer, Tick. Uh, and they are looking at having it available as a flat $15 a month subscription fee for this massive game. I've seen a couple of pictures
really?
of the map and that sort of stuff. It is huge. Is
Oh wow, it
again,
actually looks pretty clean. Here you go, guys.
yeah.
Let me pull this
If
thing
you
up real
get a
quick.
look at the videos for it, it's for a team of, they're now up to, I think they was looking at LinkedIn, they're up to about 200 people, um, as they push through into the next phase of it. But yeah, that's $15 a month. If they get 50,000 people playing it, paying that,
It looks
that's a
very much like
you know
WoW.
yeah, it's pretty cool what they're saying they're going to achieve, and they crowdfunded the whole thing for the development. Um, they did 750,000 in less than 12 hours. They got to 3.25 million by the end of the campaign. Um, and yeah,
Wait, you said
so when they get this,
3.25 million?
they did 3.25 million in funding by the end of their Kickstarter campaign. They did up front, and yeah,
Dang.
um, but yeah, they had 500,000 users agreed to sign up, and 40,000 people purchased the initial alpha and beta access tests, and they were a special one-off purchase of $500 pre-order package and sign an NDA, and you would, once the game released, you didn't have to pay for it. If
Wow.
they've got 500,000 people ready to pay $15 a month, and they've already back funded the development by raising that couple of $1 million to get it off the ground and running, yeah, that's how you start up an online game for a live service
Yeah.
ongoing game.
Well, and I'll definitely say this. Looking at the gameplay, for one, this is videos from a month ago. Uh,
Yeah.
it's from Lucky Ghost. I don't. His was the first one that popped up. Never know anything about this person. Uh, but I also don't want to use his video without shouting him out. Anyways, this is the gameplay for the video actually looks really good. You can tell it's alpha or you can tell it's early build because the camera is super juddery and very like quick snaps. And I bet that'll be smoothed out by the time it releases. But it looks honestly, I don't think it's ever coming to console. That's the thing.
No, it's staying on PC.
Like
It's pretty much guaranteed to be a PC game. But that's the alpha footage. The reason I wanted to bring this up was to say, look at the
that's
alpha
crazy.
footage. That alpha footage is better than half the shit that's come out in the last 12 months.
You're not wrong.
And that's alpha. Like, and it's a small studio, self-funded, self-running. They're only going to focus on this one thing for the better part of the next 10 years. Are great. But this is, again, this would not be considered a AAA game because it's an MMORPG. It straight away gets discredited. But this is the sort of stuff that 5, 6, 7 years ago, someone had an idea, got a few mates together, pitched it, got people to back them, and then all of a sudden they're into it. When this thing gets going, I'm not saying it's going to be a massive roaring success, but they've got 500,000 people prepared to pay $15 a month, then I don't think they're going to have a hard time. Uh, you know, it's 180 a year. Um, they might end up having more subscribers than Game Pass, but it depends on how it goes. But
Sorry.
but they've got the flexibility at that level. Again, organically talking about what we've said, and I'm sorry we're running over time. They've got the flexibility to take whatever risks they want with this game because it's not got a massive corporate overhead that needs to pay for thousands and thousands of people's livelihoods. If they make a decision and it goes wrong, they can pivot and change really quickly, like Arrowhead did when they launched Helldivers 2. Sony published it. Sony kept their hands off that for a reason. They didn't want the risk, and when it took off and they couldn't keep the servers up to spec, Sony stepped in to help out. But no one expected it to go so well. They were flexible enough to resolve the issues. And then when things started to go great, then they had the updates that went backwards and they started to get the negative reviews. They addressed it and they fixed it. They did the changes they had to. If that was Sony, look what happened when Sony did it. They shut the game down, they shut the studio down, and they sacked everyone. It's Xdefiant, like you were saying before. I know we didn't even talk about it. Xdefiant came out, no massive fanfare. It went all right for a little bit and it's just died a horrible death. What did Ubisoft do? Shut the game down, sack everyone.
No, no, no. Not just sack everyone. Sacked two studios and killing another one at the beginning of the year. A total of almost 310 employees. You're right, we didn't talk about this. But, like, and that is with a portion of the employees getting absorbed into other studios. You're still looking at almost 300 people
Yep.
gone. And
Yeah.
Here's funny enough. I was having this thought earlier. MMOs, online games, shooters, hero shooters, things like that, live service games in general. I cannot stress, and I'm not a developer, I'm just a gamer. That's it. But I cannot stress to the developers enough that we do not want any more shooters on the market right now. We just don't.
Hmm.
Nobody gives a shit. You want to
Pass.
get you
Hard
want to
pass.
get to a you want to get to the audience that you haven't been able to reach yet on MMOs. You make a game like Ashes of Creation. You
Yes.
make a game like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink.
Oh, that thing was brilliant, wasn't it?
You make well, so funny enough, I haven't played the damn thing past the demo.
Neither have I.
But everybody who I know who has played it has said it's phenomenal. The co-op's amazing. The story's wonderful. Everything is great, and it just keeps going, and you can keep having fun with it, and it's awesome. Like those style
Mm,
of games are what people want because they still want a story. They still want to have fun with their friends. They still want to do these things, and not every. And if you want to play a shooter, guess what? There's 20 of them out there. Go pick.
yeah, that's it. There's no shortage of them.
But like, if you
And
want a
look,
game like WoW, you can go play WoW. Like that's it. That's it.
it,
There's
it
there's there's nothing
and,
else.
and when they make a major change to WoW, you're stuck with it. You can't wind it back. Can't go back to the old version. It's not like they made a sequel. You're stuck with whatever the change is. So, and that's the thing. If you can find a niche in the market. Yes, it's a saturated market, but it's saturated in certain aspects of genres. It's very open in other areas.
Right, that's what I was saying.
Um,
Like, and
and,
I think that's what
and
games like Genshin Impact have like revealed because like
yes,
Genshin Impact came out and it's this open world Zelda essentially. It's a live service Zelda game,
yeah,
and you're going through it, and the combat's solid, the mechanics are fun. Sometimes there's
yeah,
way too much shit to do, but like it's not a terrible game. It just throws a lot of stuff at you, and
yeah,
it's not too helpful on like so my son and I have a lot of hours in that. We actually got one of the best five-star characters early on. I don't even know if he's
oh, yeah,
still any good, but I remember one of our friends from church was over. They were about to babysit our kids because my wife and I were going out, and they were like, "Oh, you have Duloc? That's so cool! Like, how did y'all get him?" And we were like, "Well, we just did the missions and saved up our crystals and popped him." They were like, "Oh my God, he's like the best five-star in the game!" And like, so that of course excited us. So we started playing more, and it finally had gotten to a point where okay, I can only chase the carrot long enough before I get annoyed,
yeah.
and that game is nothing but chasing the carrot. And
It
so
is.
but it showed that, hey, listen, we can give these out. And if you don't believe me, the same studio did the same shit and named it something different.
Yeah, Honkai Star Rail is the same shit just in outer space, and then Zenless Zone Zero is the same shit just in a mythological, what do they call it, high fantasy or something like that.
Right.
It's
They've done the
just
same
reskin
shit
it and send it out again.
twice. And
Yes.
like, it works. So,
Hey, if people don't have to pay for it up front and they get that, you only got to hook them in the first 10 minutes, and if they're hooked
absolutely.
in the first 10 minutes of those games, they'll commit hours and hours and hours.
Oh, 100%. Like, and that's the thing that I think developers are missing. Like, I am not against you trying to do live service. I am against seeing another. Like, I'm surprised the finals is still out. I'm surprised
Yeah.
Xdefiant lasted for as long as it did. I
What was that other one that just launched recently? It's on the PS Store homepage and it's on console and that. It's almost like a carbon copy of the finals, but it called it something else.
I don't know.
The hell was it? I'm
You
gonna
have the
have a quick look now.
finals
Um,
and
but then you've got Fair Games and Marathon coming in PlayStation, and you've got one or two others coming down the pipeline over at Xbox. Ubisoft's talking about doing another. They're going to do something similar to Xdefiant, but they're not going to call it Xdefiant. They're doing one. What's the other one that Ubisoft have? Is it Rainbow Six? They make Rainbow Six games.
They do make Rainbow
I
Six.
remember now. They got
Ubisoft
another one of
does.
them coming. Yep, they got another one of them coming. Um, and what's the other? Oh crap,
Uh,
Battlefield. EA's doing
that's
something with
EA.
Battlefield. Yeah, I and that's on top of having all of the ones we currently have. Come on, guys, like
Yeah,
read the
and
room.
that's like we don't need. And I know, I know that some people in the chat don't agree with me. Some people in the Discord don't agree with me. But I do think that part of the reason why Concord failed was because the market was so overly saturated. But that's a different. We are done. It is
Sorry.
12:05 in the morning now for me. So,
Oh crap! Oh, I'm so sorry. I
nah,
did this to
bro,
you
nah,
last
bro.
time as well.
I do this to myself. I know what I'm doing here. I'm a grown ass man. We will save the PS Portal news for next week because I might do just a short little video on that. Um, Guys, thank y'all all for coming. The content will be picking back up. Like I said, I took off for the holidays. I was gonna do a video the weekend before, but I ended up getting strep, and so I was down. I missed two different Thanksgiving meals, one with my church and one with my our extended family, and then I almost missed Friendsgiving, and I was going to be super sad. So thankfully, I at least got to go to that. But what that meant was is I didn't get my weekend video out like I wanted to. So I'll probably do a video on the PS Portal news. Falky, dude, thanks for coming, man. You did not have to. I know that you do Brap show on Wednesdays, so I was not even considering you coming over here. I didn't ask you to come, but you just freaking you didn't even tell me you were coming until like you were in the chat. So I've rewinded it back to the beginning and you were literally in the room while I was getting everything set up, and I was running around like a damn chicken with my head cut off, so I didn't see you. Uh,
I snuck in. I snuck. It's just the stars aligned. Brap had to cancel today. He's doing his on. Will be Saturday my time, Sunday my time.
oh, okay.
Saturday my time is Friday, so Saturday afternoon for me. He's had a clashing of schedules because we work,
Yeah.
um, and we all work, but he had a clashing of schedules because he's had to do some stuff with work. I was busy and uncommitted, and then all of a sudden my day just freed up. He cancelled, and then my meeting got cancelled within 5 minutes of each other. And I thought, oh, and that's what I said. Are you in the Discord? And you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. And I just snuck in, and when I popped up, I was in the middle of doing something else. I didn't realize I'd logged in, and then you're like, yeah, hey, yeah, we're good to go. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, because I had the screen down. I was like. And you'd said you were running solo because of other bits and pieces. I was
Because of
like,
a
well,
miscommunication on my end, like, damn it. So one of the people who was supposed to be on here tonight literally said, "Hey," and this was about 2 weeks ago when I sent out the message to all these guys. Because I actually try to get everything organized. I try so hard to get everything organized. And so I have like the next 6 shows planned. I got responses from everybody. And well, Wara was supposed to be on tonight. And well, I thought he was
oh
supposed
yeah,
to be on tonight. And it's because he said he gave me 2 dates. And the first one he said possibly two. I took
ah
that
yeah,
as, hey, I'm there unless something comes up. Well, I never got a
yep,
message saying anything came up, so I was just moving along. I made a post about it. I made a community post about it on YouTube. I sent him the articles today, and he's been so busy today, he didn't check his DMs on Discord when I had sent him
yep.
the articles, and he had to go, and he was like, "Oh, dude, I thought we were just giving you dates and you were choosing," and he apologized. He was like, "Hey, I should have said something." I was like, "Nah, dude, that's totally me. I assumed up one way and down the other, and I should have double checked." And so I get on and I message Falky because I'm like, "Hey, um, when you gave me these three dates, were those 3 dates that you're available and I'm supposed to pick one, or were those 3 dates that you want to be on the show?" Like, because we had just, and that's how he even knew that I was running solo tonight. Because I know that he does Brap's show, so I don't usually like unless he's scheduled, I don't try to reach out to him as somebody to come on to help fill a slot or anything like that. Because I do respect, even though somebody else is in my time slot, I respect what they do, so I'm not trying to like steal their panel members. I'm just not that person. Uh, I would rather go solo than take over somebody else's panel members or have somebody come over and do me a solid and kind of leave the other guy in the position I was in. And so, anyways, that's how all of that happened. Nate was supposed to be on here as well. If y'all have listened to the Autoplayer podcast on Saturday or caught the run back, he actually was like kind of sick and like congested that day, and you can hear it in his voice. And so he messaged me and was like, "Yo, dude, I don't think I can make it. I am losing my voice. I've been trying to drink tea and get it back, and it's not coming back. I hope I can get it back before the show." And he texted me, and I was like, "Hey, man, listen, just give me a definitive answer closer to the show. No big deal. No nothing." And so he messaged me and was like, "Hey, man, I can't go." And I was like, "You know what? Screw it. I've done this show solo before. I can do it again. No big deal." And then I got surprised with one of my absolute most favorite guests. Always welcome, David
Well,
Falky,
thank you.
or David Faulkner came. I'm so used to calling you Falky. It's
It's all right. Everyone
uh,
does.
and it's been a great show, guys. It's been
Yes.
wonderful. Seriously, go vote if you are a member here. Go vote on what you want. What content do you want? Do you want to see somebody who sucks? Absolutely, no questions asked. 100% is terrible at Souls games. Uh, Try to stomach Bloodborne at 30 FPS on the PS5 Pro? Let me know. Put it on there. That's a voting. You can do it. If you want to see us do a community game night where we play Rivals or where we play something else, you can do that. And if they're close, like right now, I think the last time I saw they were like 57-43. Like if they're that close all the way throughout, then we'll do both. We'll do Souls game, and then like we'll do Souls game one week, and then a couple weeks later we'll do community game night where we all get on and we play something or whatnot. But really want to start giving some stuff out to the members, some exclusive content, some perks, some things like that. Uh, Helldivers, uh, I don't know. Like I said, there's enough shooters out there in the world. I kind of like. I kind of also I really want to play. And you're gonna be like, well, Marvel Rivals is a shooter. I know, but Marvel Rivals also is new and fun, and it looks pretty. And I want to play as Spider-Man and Wolverine and Iron Man and all these other characters that I grew up with. But yeah, definitely Helldivers is a possibility. Any of the games that are multiplayer, I don't care. Uh, I can get carried through any single one of them with no problem as long as y'all are good enough to carry me. So
And the fun thing about Helldivers is the fact that it has friendly fire. If that thing didn't have friendly fire, it would be boring as shit.
it
So much of the fun that
well,
comes out of playing that is you get a team together and you start throwing down against whatever the enemy is, and people get blown up by accident. They run in front of each other shooting stuff.
well, because you napalm everybody, and you're like,
That's
oh,
right.
whoops, and everybody
You get
laughs and nobody's upset. It's like,
you get someone who loves to throw out the 380 mil barrage, and they don't tell you it's coming, and you're right in the middle of it. Oh,
oh,
it's fun. That,
I.
that's what makes those games fun. But yeah, I don't know why you would put yourself through the torture of trying to play Bloodborne on a PS5 Pro. Just
So it's either like harm myself mentally by playing Bloodborne, or I can like sell myself out and I can put bunny ears on and I can have my shirt off and I could like do all of that stuff. And that's just I'm not built for that. That's not me. I can't.
you
It doesn't
you
look
just need
good.
to be. What are those streamers called that use the They have like an animated something or other. I can't remember what they're called now.
Oh, the where they use the avatar, like to
Yeah,
talk. Yeah. I don't know what the hell they're called, but I would never in a million freaking years could I do that and look at myself in the mirror the next morning. I just there's something about that that feels weird and childish. And like, there's a person in the Magic community that does that, and like, I can't watch their videos. It absolutely bothers the crap out of me. Uh,
I see some weird ones. You just see the ones that
oh,
they have the screen filters that turn them into different Pokemon, and people
oh.
pay money to put fruit up on the screen, and it's just fucking
So, Corey Massey said they're called VTubers.
VTubers. That's what it was.
Ugh, they're called a waste of my time. All right, guys. With that
Ah,
being said, Falky, you can. I didn't have his links in there because I didn't know
all
he
right.
was gonna be here.
I
You can.
knocked on the front door and you graciously let me in. You could have said no, but I do appreciate because I don't like showing up unannounced either. But I snuck in and you said, "Hey, hang around."
It was a
Three
great
hours
surprise.
later,
Yeah, no, 3 hours
um,
and 30 minutes later. Guys, y'all have a wonderful night. I will try to get the link put in there. And outside of that, guys, have fun. Check out the PlayStation 30th anniversary sale because the sales for that are actually better than the Black Friday sales. It's
yes,
absolutely asinine that they effed us over on Black Friday only to give us like there's a Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order $20 together is an absolute steal. Like
absolutely.
that's fantastic. Anyways, go check out the sales. Have a great day. Stay thrifty.